What are the signs of a broken man? Crap, if that doesn't hit home. Be me, middle-aged dad. I have 3 kids, one of whom is a toddler. Almost every waking moment, I'm fulfilling some kind of responsibility. To my work, to keeping the children taken care of, taking care of our pets, etc. Wife works hard in her own way and is generally a good parent and partner, but has enough physical ailments that she can't really keep up with things or work a steady job. So does what she can, but have to fill in a lot of the gaps. Even though she readily admits that she needs me to do all sorts of things from hanging a picture to filing taxes to changing a tire to even retrieving a lost object under a dresser. I'm always made to feel like I'm never doing enough, even with the gaps I fill in, because we have a toddler. The house is always messy, there's always a pile of dishes and laundry to do, etc. Even with all of this, I get continual disappointment and resentment from her because I'm just too damn tired to care about the holidays or about planning things, or about doing anything other than just trying to get through the toddler years. My kids' needs come first, obviously, then her needs. My needs are so far out of sight they may as well be on the moon. And forget communicating these things. I'm tired as the default because if I actually tell her any of these things, it's not necessarily, we should get you help, or let's change things up so you're not feeling so overwhelmed. It's more of an accusatory, oh, you're acting depressed. Like I'd better get the hell over it and certainly not inviting further discussion of the matter. I even throw in the, I'm tired, boss, facetiously from time to time, but that's the extent to which I feel it. If I were to all of a sudden have zero responsibility outside of work, and my work isn't that difficult or stressful, I would probably spend months doing nothing in particular except maybe dabbling in the couple of hobbies I've had and could only do for about 10 minutes at a time over the past decade. But mostly just doing absolutely nothing. Maybe sitting on a park bench, on a front porch, or next to a river, just watching the world go by. The zero responsibility dream. Sounds like a vacation to a deserted island, but with unlimited access to takeout. Very understanding Wi-Fi connection. Story 2. My wife works. She's in the military and she's a mom to 3. At that time, I left the military so I could be home more on those military weekends for the kids. I took a job that gave me flexibility to come home if a kid is sick or needs to be picked up in a small window of time during rush hour. It is a 6-figure job, but I'm reminded how I'm not the breadwinner because I don't make as much as my wife. And I'm told she deserves more authority. Over what? Precisely, I'm unsure. Specifically because she makes more money. I assume this is the authority to overrule me when, for example, we disagree about what to do with our kids and disciplining. We have everything. But I give her my fun money, we budget together, and this is a discretionary account after responsibilities are paid, because she tells me how unfair it is that she has to limit herself. And she forgets to budget much of anything because she's so busy. So when a budget is blown, I'm supposed to be able to cover the shortfall because you control the finances. Even if I merely create the many pots of money for her to spend throughout the month, I'm the one that plays with the kids, coach their sports, there from the bus stop, home to play zombies and Bew with my 2-year-old. I'm handling multi-million-dollar lawsuits, but all we have time for is listening to how she's struggling to reshape her business. My wife has no idea what I really do, but she's certain I don't work as hard as her. My doctor literally told me I'm passing away from stress and need to go on medication at a way young age relative to when those are normally handed out. I didn't take them. Trying to clean up what I can before I go down that route. My wife blames my childhood, which admittedly was rough, and says my stress and associated depression comes from that and not her. She tells her friends I'm just having an Asperger's moment. Today, Veterans Day, I decided I wouldn't go to this school assembly because I honestly have just been depressed. I knew my wife would find a way to rub in how she recently pinned on Lieutenant Colonel and I only served 1 term. And I guess I felt like I didn't need anyone to congratulate me, you know? I just wanted to sit out at the park and watch the leaves fall. She yelled at me and told me I'm a crappy father and how disappointed she was. I privately apologized to my son for not coming, but sat and enjoyed video games with him for an hour to make up for it the best I could. Tonight she told me to move out by the end of the holidays, that I'm a terrible father, after I just got home from coaching basketball for my kiddos, and that her mom was right, that I was always lazy, selfish, and a bad husband or father. I didn't say a word. I listened for an hour. She struggled to get our boys to listen to go to bed, trying to just fall asleep so I could go to work the next morning. Then my 2-year-old demands to come sleep with Dad. Rubbed his back until he fell asleep. The house went silent. I'm here on Reddit now, kinda contemplating ending it all, also realizing it's not the man thing to do. So I guess I'll keep pressing on tomorrow. Don't know where I'll end up. Don't know what the holidays bring, but I'll greet tomorrow as I've greeted every day before it. Studying Zen Buddhism recently. this wisdom was imparted on me. Two monks were arguing while watching a flag flapping in the wind. The flag is moving, argued one monk. No, it's the wind that is moving, insisted the other monk. Yet another monk saw this as he was passing by and remarked, it's your minds that are moving. When something happens, we tend to immediately blame the times we're living in or others around us. We always place responsibility elsewhere and refuse to look within. Don't try to understand this, just become the flag. Tomorrow, then, my goal is to stop fussing within myself if I'm right or wrong, a good father as I quietly believe in my heart, or the terrible father my wife insists I am. I'm simply going to be. Be what I know my kids need, be kind even if kindness is not given to me. I think this is the true strength of a man, the opposite of defeat. Story 3. I am at the point where I have my vigor for working back, like how I was the first year I started my career, which sounds nice, but this was after almost a solid year of on and off burnout. Now, instead of things being a drag and letting them get to me, it just doesn't matter if they're a drag or not to me because they just need to get done. So I do them. That is what I wanted and needed. I like this. However, my sleep is still as awful as it was before, with maybe slight improvement. I don't care if people are mean to me or not, which nobody should really, but when it's people you care about, it's supposed to hurt. It doesn't anymore. Not really anyway. It's more so a feeling of, there it is. I'm also more cold, I guess. Still compassionate and understanding, but when it comes to people not understanding what I'm saying, I just do it myself, to not waste the time, or not bother asking at all. When somebody asks for honest advice, I always give it in an easy-to-swallow way. Never sugarcoat it, though. I always tell the hard truth. I'm just gentle with them. I would just say what they gotta do, and if they listen, good. If they don't, oh well. I don't know. I guess I feel more like a machine now. Getting the work done before, I was trying so desperately to force myself to start. Now it's a breeze. Exhaustion doesn't matter. Lack of sleep doesn't matter. How much I eat doesn't matter. Surplus or deficit. I will say, though, when I do eat, I feel like eating until I can't anymore. I don't, most of the times, but that ravenous desire is there. All logic, all the time. All feelings are intact and working just fine, but I finally feel like I'm at the freaking wheel again and nothing matters but my goals. I feel amazing. I love it. Whoever can't keep up can just fall to the wayside. They should have tried harder or put the effort in to begin with mentality. Those that can keep up with me and make me want to push harder. When friends can't be with me for long, I used to get a bit sad. Now it's just acceptance, and I fill that time with whatever needs doing. I almost look forward to it, which worries me. It's giving self-isolation. Lol. Typically not great to do. Though I'm concerned about making sure I don't actually become cold, uncaring, or actually a schmuck. Basically, everybody in my life has let me down, and I'm the only one who screwed up and got what needs doing. Done. Parents, family, friends, almost all of them have been letdowns, failures, or betrayed me. Stole from me, lied, been two-faced. Save for an amazing few, that is. Those few people have done right by me, I cherish. As for the rest, if they drown in 2 inches of water, it's because they were too lazy to push themselves over. The point I'm at now is that I say, let them. Instead of pushing them over myself, I just walk right past now without remorse. Metaphorically speaking, obviously. I've studied psychology for years and have years of field experience, so this is one of the typical outcomes behavior-wise. I'm aware of that. It's not a question of why am I like this? More so about the question of how messed up have I become? It's easy to see the problems in others, but seeing everything that needs fixing in yourself is much harder because the mind just doesn't register certain behaviors as problematic. Rather, it's more so a normality. So I ask all of you, am I on a highway headed for some sort of breakdown or crash out? Am I actually just coming to the realization that nobody is worth a crap unless they prove it with action, consistently? That, while all my feelings are intact, there's no point being sad or upset at trivial stuff, so I just accept the small things that happen and move on, saving that energy for people and events that actually matter. Or am I compartmentalizing to an approaching dangerous degree? Most importantly, how do I retain this machine work ethic without becoming cold and uncaring? Is it simply a matter of working through it until I find a balance? Story 4. Gallows humor. I have no problem joking about being gone inside and having no marketable qualities to find a partner in life. I have to catch myself from oversharing details. It's better to just lie. Last summer, I went to a college reunion to see some old friends, and I kinda laid it all out that the past few years have been incredibly difficult, mostly due to nasty divorce. It made it pretty awkward, and none of them talked to me after that. When I left the reunion, I sat in my car for a bit and cried because I figured that was the last time I'd see them all. There was a time when they all would have been keeping tabs to see that I'm okay or whatever, but I ended up being the friend that gets phased out. Nobody reached out. I had to change my number. I didn't even do the mass text to everyone I still talk to because they wouldn't talk to me again. Nobody wants to see a friend that is the same as he was 10 years ago with no significant change. I figured it would happen anyway. I have no kids and a crap career. I live in a small bubble of tolerable hatred of life and my job. My family is the only reason I'm still around. The only way I can describe it is if the movie Groundhog Day wasn't funny. I can spot another broken man from a mile away now. There's a frequent sigh given off by guys like myself, and it really says it all in just the exhalation of breath. You might see a dude that looks like he's staring at you. Nope. Chances are it's the 1,000-mile stare, and the guy's just lost in self-deprecation and intrusive thoughts. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Story 5. Been seriously broken 3 times over the years. It was completely awful. Writing it out until you get that mental click and things finally start going outwards in your brain instead of inwards. What causes the click? Perspective, reality checks, acceptance, something someone says, a TV show or other. But that thing, whatever it is, gives your brain a blank sheet of paper, and with it, you jot down and begin to come to terms with, here are the things I can control. Here are the positives I got going on. The immediate hurdles become clear. The same immediate hurdles shrink from monster size to, wait, that's only a few hours of work. That could be done by lunch tomorrow. You actually take a shower, get dressed, go to the grocery store, buy responsible groceries in one treat, because you suddenly like yourself again and feel like maybe you have had a hard time and you deserve an inexpensive, financially responsible bit of joy. Responsible groceries? Please. I'm talking about a tub of ice cream and a lifetime supply of comfort TV. Story 6. Me. I'm the sign. I'm the broken man. Physically, I have chronic unending back pain, no matter what I do. It is there in some form, either a 4 out of 10 or at worst, 8 out of 10. Just always there. It took away my chances of becoming a doctor and even of going back and doing any of the previous jobs or careers I had trained for. I can't sit for much more than 20 minutes, and being on my feet for too long ends up increasing my pain. I volunteer but can only do short bursts. Nowhere will employ me. It is also a direct contributor to the other part of my life that has broken me. My ex cheated, left, and has even to some extent checked out on our kids. The person I most trusted in the world. The person who always said she hated cheaters. Her dad cheated and left the family and people who don't prioritize their kids. She took away my belief in people. She either lied or pretended to be someone that she wasn't for 12 years, or my broken body and loss of career made her change so much that after my last setback and acknowledgement of poor future prognosis, confirmed by my inability to return to med, she was cheating on me within a month, but lied about it until after Christmas, then laid the blame on me. I focus on my children. My eldest, who is on the spectrum and needs me because he feels abandoned by his mother. My youngest, who is the sweetest little boy I've ever known. Both are good kids, kind and loving, who are scared of the man that their mother is trying to force into their lives. I'm physically, emotionally, and mentally broken. I continue to be the best dad I can be, support my boys and give them the attentive parent they need. I see a therapist. I take my meds. I exist and find what moments of happiness I can while I try to rebuild myself into a fully functional member of society. Story 7. Anyone who sees reality clearly is going to be broken to some extent. Let's go down the list. Virtually everything that is pleasurable is bad for you or unproductive. Conversely, almost everything good for you is either boring, not interesting, or hard with a minimal or unreliable payoff. Problems are the best temporarily solved until they recur again. Possessions are a way of turning money into problems. Every time you get a few extra bucks, something breaks. Achievement creates a very brief period of satisfaction followed by long, unremitting stress. The tolerance effect works in everything, i.e., anything that gives you pleasure will lose its ability to do so over time as you acclimate to it. Often the worst and most selfish of us are the most greatly rewarded. See recent election. I could go on, but let me wrap it up with this. It's not insane nor irrational to be broken in a broken world. Story 8. No emotions at all. But you want details, huh? Well, let's try the loss of a few brothers while in an undisclosed location in or around Kandahar, while simultaneously your family is passing off in rapid succession. Aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews. Your sister who was only 3 years older than you at 43. You then rotate home, and within a year, you find your pop sleeping in for the first time in his life, so you check in on him at your mom's request, but he's not sleeping. The mortgage on our business and homes, overdue by 2 months, so you try to catch it up to no avail, due to Brand X's strict regulations on residential or commercial properties. Pop canceled his life insurance 3 months earlier and nobody knew anything was happening. Immediately after, Mom became so severely ill that her final request was, "I'm laying down now. If you call anyone, have me picked up. Taken to the hospital or even bother me in any way, I swear I will disown you and haunt you for the rest of your life." I did my very best to accommodate her and get her to see that she could still have a life on her own, but the sad truth is that she couldn't. Just 8 months after Pop passed, I had to see my best friend in my life pass away, to which today I still have not accepted it. It's not a big deal that we lost $1.7 million in our businesses, homes, a few vehicles, and stupid things, but to lose it all so closely timed? How would you take it? Broken? But that's the best term? No. How about absolutely empty with nothing left inside of interest whatsoever? Complete anhedonia states that nothing will change except that good old false sense of well-being by itself is the only, yet the worst lie you can tell, because who wants their happy-go-lucky life with its minute issues interrupted by real, true sadness? Though you wish to God you could, you cannot even cry about anything anymore due to seeing, feeling, hearing, and firsthand experiencing it all in its detailed entirety. You're now just an empty vessel, altered in too many ways to comprehend, but you survive. Solely and now alone, but you did for some reason. You were left here by everyone you knew that knew you, that you loved, who may be a little bit idiotic at times, but loved you back. You now find yourself wondering how long it will take for anyone else to leave you as well, so an attachment to all this trauma is zero trust. For anyone else, therefore, you maintain quite a distance from everyone. You avoid people like a highly infectious disease, as you slowly become dependent upon only one entity that is not of this world: God, if you're still alive. If you've made it through this portion, I did my best to describe well, then I thank you for your time, care, understanding, and blessings. Story 9. Let me tell you, I was a truck driver for years and I'm married. Spent a ton of time on the road and decided it was time to come home. A few years ago, I got a job as a plumbing apprentice. I was so hyper-focused on work and succeeding and being the best for about 3 years. I worked nonstop, 60 to 70 some weeks, 80 hours in a week, just to come home, take a shower, nap, and hit it again. Spring of 2023, I hit a wall. I lost myself. I was in a depression I've never felt before. So much so, my bosses pulled me aside and forced me to take 2 weeks off to find myself. I was in that rut for months. I eventually quit that job and started on with another plumbing company. I was just crawling out of that hole when my dog of 12 years unexpectedly passed away. I drank a bottle that night, and when my wife went to bed, I typed out a letter on my phone and held up my weapon. Weirdly, and honestly, what kept me from pulling the trigger was I didn't want the last thing I tasted to be the metallic taste to the barrel. I passed out and woke up the next morning and kept fighting. It's been about 1.5 years since I fell into that depression, and 10 months since my best friend passed. I lost my other pup of 10 years 3 months ago as well, but I can 100% say that I'm close to my old self again and I feel great. Story 10. Literally only motivated to do anything because my kids. Their mom broke me. 9 years, just like above. My friends all tried to save me, but couldn't. The kids kept me alive, in motion, but like a shark, not a man. If I didn't keep going, I would end. She finally went too far about 6 months ago. The kids saw what they never should have, but also maybe had to. Hitting daddy was one thing. I'm strong. I can take it like I always had, but violence, like lying, always escalates. Things are getting better. Testosterone is low, but spirits are up. And the world that never left me is slowly returning to focus. The kids are doing better than I'd hoped. I'm so proud of them on a daily basis. I laugh or cry about it in public and don't even wipe my face. Yeah, I'm still broken, but I'm present and active. And I have reopened my eyes and ears to the chorus that was only muted because I made it happen. Thank you for reading. Story 11. It depends on the context of brokenness. A person can be broken in one part of their life and functioning damn near perfectly in others. This can and usually will be used to hide the broken part from view. For example, an emotionally broken man might look to intimacy as the way of feeling connection to a significant other that they likely pick more for logical reasons than the feelings they inspire, or possibly because the feelings are more surface level. This usually happens because they've loved hard in the past and had their heart destroyed, or because they were raised to value the practical aspects of life over emotional connection or fulfillment. Additionally, a man who is broken mentally will likely be withdrawn from what they perceive to be unnecessary interactions with others. They'll prefer dwelling in their hermitage instead of being social beyond what's needed to be reasonably successful in the workplace. For example, they might indulge in vices such as substance to dull or distract from the feelings they have about their existence. and have very little, if any, hope or improvement in the future. They may also view therapy or offers of help from those who love them as unnecessary, pointless, or a waste of time. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 12. Freaking out over little crap. Screaming at the top of your lungs about crap going on in your life in the car. Short fuse. Losing interest in all hobbies. Pushing people away. Being self-aggrandizing and self-hating at the same time. Overall detachment from everything. Jokes about ending themselves. Right now, I'm trying to dig myself out of the depression hole I've been in since I was in high school. It's hard, but it's possible. Happiness isn't an emotion. It's a process. But honestly, I'm still so tired of everything. Trying to milk the joy out of every day is great, but frankly, it's hard. I go back and read my journal entries from 1 to 2 years ago, and I shudder at what I wrote. My growing disillusionment with the general system I live under. The general cynicism and inhumanity of things combined with a downward slope of our economy and cultural psyche makes me depressed. Sadly, I can't do anything about that. On the bright side, I've gone back to my hobbies. After working 6 unpaid internships, I feel that I need to do something every day for me and me alone. That's helping a lot. Story 13. My best friend. I was with her for 8 years, engaged for the last 3 years. She surprised me one Friday back in June. She said she bought a plane ticket to visit her mom and sister in Colorado. 2 weeks later, I drove her to Logan Airport and watched her walk out of my life. We were still together at that point and had plans for me to move out there when she got a job in a place. And I took care of things here in preparation for moving out there. She was going to fly back and ride in the U-Haul with me back to Colorado. We talked every day. She would send me videos. Then we had an argument. No big deal. We've argued and always made up. Well, this time she said it was too much and needed a break. She said she wanted to be single and find herself and heal her mental health. Then shortly after, she changed her status from engaged to single. Then deleted every pic of us together. And when I asked about it, she unfriended me on Facebook and Insta. Said I could still snap her. Then, no more snap. Unfriended there too. Said I could text. Well, she texted me back in October and told me that this was her letting me go and hasn't replied to any messages since. She waited until I shipped her 6 huge boxes of her stuff and sent her way too much money. I'm broken as hell. Can't stop thinking about her. I don't sleep more than 2-3 hours a night. Barely eat. Just get messed up and drink every day since being ghosted. Everything I had planned for the future is gone. So freaking sad. She kept the ring, too. Story 14. People call me a broken man all the time. I'm about to finish my MBA, but over 2 decades, I've had pretty much everyone from my past ask why I'm not a CEO or have a mansion or this and that. No one invites me to anything. Then they point fingers asking why I'm emotionally drawn and now try to bend it, saying that I think that I'm too good for them, etc. I've always just wanted to fit in and be loved. Tired of people pointing the finger at me when they have no clue what's going on in my life. Batman was a broken man who became a vigilante. I've heard psychologists on NPR that have confessed that over 60% of their clientele life would be fixed if they just had a better job and more money. I've had nearly 100 women with multiple baby daddies who live with their parents tell me that I'm a piece of crap for not making 6 figures. I mean, seriously? I used to hurt so much over this, but I'm glad that now my gray eyes can pierce through any veil of BS. I'm a beautiful soul. It's society and some systems that are broken. Story 15. If you're reading this and looking for yourself in the comments, I need you to understand that getting out is possible. As impossible as it seems, it is. It took years to finally feel like I can exist without feeling like I shouldn't. I won't bother going into too much detail, but my personal experience was caused by a lack of motivation in my life. I'm good at doing the bare minimum and getting by, but the lack of drive to try more than I had caused me to slip here and there. I'd get angry at myself. I'd feel like crap for failing at whatever small thing, and in turn, I felt like doing even less. It was a cycle of hating myself, feeling awful, wanting to do nothing but stop thinking about how crap I was, feeling even crappier and repeating. It lasted for a long time. Only in the last few months did I finally get back to the point where I don't actively hate myself. I woke up one day years ago and realized I didn't like feeling like crap all the time, even though at that point I thought I deserved it. I'm still moving forward slowly. Just the other day I realized, damn, I'm right back where I started. No motivation to try. This is awesome. I went downhill for so long that just being back at the starting point of where it went to crap means I've improved. Still have no idea how to deal with lack of motivation, but hey, I got time to figure it out. We all have different stories, but understand that you gotta be an ally to yourself. If every day you wake up thinking how awful you are, you will not be able to do anything. No amount of willpower can beat your own internal crap talk, at least in my experience. Forgive yourself. Be your own ally. Love yourself. All that self-help crap that people spout, yeah, it's unfortunately true. You don't like feeling crap? Stop thinking you deserve it. Take pride in brushing your teeth and doing the laundry. I did my laundry 2 weeks ago and it's still a bundle of clean clothes on my dresser not put away. My sheets are clean and ready to go and I still haven't made my bed or put my pillowcases on. And I feel better than I have in years. I'm not even mad at myself. You can do it. You gotta want it. If you don't want to feel better, you can't. Sorry, I can't give more advice than just some generic comment, but seriously, you can make it out. Story 16. Loses interest in everyone who they don't already trust. Closes themselves off. Fake smile. I know because it's me. I've been in a few relationships, all of them being cruel relationships. My last girlfriend only wanted me for my body. I've been told since I was a kid by people around me that I don't deserve love. Still struggling with it. I forced that fake smile onto my face just to seem normal, as when it didn't, people told me I was creepy. It still makes me feel ill when I smile like that. I don't go out anymore because what is the point when I'm all alone anyway? I stopped looking for a relationship at this point because it all just hurts to only see the dark sides of people I thought were angels. Found out recently that one of the few people who actually loved me for me, like she adored me, passed away. Gone. I can't even go to her grave to say that I'm sorry for being such a wuss that I couldn't reciprocate her feelings as I just got out of a bad relationship and didn't know who to trust. At this game of life, I'm a master at losing and I don't know if I can bring myself to open up again. It is just not worth it. Story 17. It's when you sleepwalk through every day because you have obligations, barely conscious of anything else around you. It's when you feel like a different person everywhere you go because you're so desperate for connection. And to not be alone that you mold a different personality to appeal to that circle. It's when you don't have any passion for your hobbies left and only do the bare minimum of what can be considered going about your day. It's when you eat garbage and the rare occasions you bother to get something to eat. It's when the most you can say about a social gathering you went to is that you showed up. It's when you're at a family gathering and you don't want to talk about your life because nobody needs to know that you spent the past 3 years drinking and smoking until you're blind. It's when you know damn well what damage you're about to do to yourself with whatever substance you're consuming. And you don't care anymore. It's when you start feeling like you only live because you have to and not because you want to. It's when you sabotage your own relationships because you know that the other person is going to find out how much of a mess you are and be disgusted. But you decide to get the pain over with and shoo them out of your life. So tired, man. Story 18. I find it's a fear of living, to trust people, to try new things, to believe and trust in myself, compounded by each day being dull and isolated. Also, a lot of regrets. I stayed in a bad relationship too long. My partner lied to me about pretty much everything and lied to most people. I supported her only to find out she was lying to me and the tax folks about her income and finances. And there were the constant comments about how much I had to change otherwise I was destroying her life. I enabled her diagnostic narcissistic, psychologist, and soft bipolar, psychiatrist behavior. Diagnoses I discovered after the split. Over 16 years, plus 7 years of a divorce dragging on, it took a toll. Not that patterns on my part weren't laid down in childhood or teens, thanks to a cruel older brother, already leaving me somewhat isolated and with low self-esteem into my early 20s. I find myself at 60 basically alone. I lost friends during the relationship as I swirled down. My reputation at work suffered as I overshared my pain to the detriment of work. Work was always where I got fulfillment and felt strongest. My day-to-day interactions with people are transactional as I'm closed off. No hobbies, no satisfaction at work as I'm near retirement and, as stated, have a poor reputation leading to few assignments. For example, a couple of years back, a new coworker in our first meeting told me what a horrible person I was. I actually find reading for pleasure is difficult. It's like I can't relax. I don't drink beyond a beer a month or so, don't smoke or use any other substance. Oh, and I have no doctor and have not had one for about 15 years. I try to hold on to some positives. My relationship with my boss has improved from suggesting me going in a disciplinary path. I started walking regularly, which has improved my physical health. My son and I chat regularly, but I don't share my sadness. He has his own life to build, and is better adjusted than I currently am, but he has sought professional help in the past. As my ex was doing better than she let on, I expect to be able to maintain myself after I retire. Still lonely. My sleep is too often disturbed by sad thoughts or scared thoughts or self-doubt or regrets. And no, I've never considered self-harm or taken anything out on my ex or a child if anyone was worried. I've sought out professional help, the past, and do avail myself of it occasionally still. I stayed as I was already unhealthy going in and later influenced by a friend who would regularly tell me how horrible her childhood was when she was raised by a mentally ill mother and her parents divorced. And a rose-colored or romantic hope that things would change. Romanticism is pretty much stripped from me now. Story 19. A year and a half ago, things were finally looking good. Nice job, modest house to renovate, loving girl who is everything I ever dreamt of. In the span of these last months, I've lost it all. Nothing there, and I did nothing wrong to deserve it. I've been simply put aside, first by my employers and then by my girl. I feel broken, deeply, like I've never felt before. Main thing I'd say is the primary red flag I recognize is the complete refusal to move on. I feel like I just don't want to anymore. I'm not feeling depressed. I'd never want to put this pain on somebody else, but I feel that the life I wanted, the one I could almost touch for a second, is gone. Whatever comes now, it's going to be a plan B, at best. But no, I don't want to feel better. I'm done working on myself. I'm done putting any effort in anything. I'm just floating by day, clenching to my pain and following it down where it will take me. All the stupid choices, all the hurt. I don't care. I want it to destroy me, so I can rebuild something different, something stronger, someone that would not let this pain go through. Wish me luck, guys. Story 20. I've had people and friends say that my facial expression is that of a broken man. The love of my life, my wife of 8 years, left me 5 years ago for reasons she never said. Just one day gone. Shortly afterwards, I lost most of my friends. Their choice, not mine. My ex took our car, leaving me having to use Uber or a bus to get to and from work and anywhere else. I invited my best friend and coworker to live with me as I had a second bedroom. It was great for a few months, then she changed. She started using me, money-wise, breaking agreed-upon rules, breaking rules in the lease, and threatening me if I didn't do what she wanted. I had no choice but to leave and get my own place. I thought finally I could get peace and begin to heal, begin to date again. Well, that didn't happen. My former best friend called my work and said I did something that was obvious to everyone that I would never do, and I ended up losing my job. I eventually got another job, but also lost all of my coworker friends. Again, their choice. Tried dating apps, sites with no luck. Women tell me that since I don't have a car, I'm not rich, I'm not worth dating. Some have told me that I'm ugly. Others tell me to end myself. Honestly, with all that I've lost in the last 6 years, the thought of ending myself has crossed my mind a few times. I've since given up on ever finding love again. In my experience, women only want money and a car from a man. Personality, loving, caring, respect, communication, they don't mean anything to women these days. If you don't have a car and don't make over $100,000 a year, then they won't even look at you. Or you ask what signs are that of a broken man? I think I just answered it. Living each day alone, unloved, unwanted, broken. Story 21. I was going to say his posts changed drastically, making them worse, until I reread the absolutely exhausting, self-absorbed, pathetic, trauma-dumping, mindless ramblings that I accidentally let loose last night. It's okay, though. I'm back in control today. As usual, we went to sleep and everything resets again, and here we are. I'm a broken man. Who you see before you is not always the one sitting at the head of the table. The others are still sitting there on their respective sides, waiting for their turn to be the one to speak. Feels like I'm sitting looking down at the table, watching everyone bicker and argue constantly. There's no beauty in it. It's self-demeaning. No one can ever say things to me that are more cruel than what I hear in my head. Besides this post, no one will even know. Because of the nature of my particular perspective, no one around me that I interact with will notice change. I'm a good actor. You have to be. Walking around with that stupid smile, exhausting, pretending to listen to small talk, exhausting. Make sure you do all the things right that everyone expects from you. Exhausting. I am the look in the eyes in front of the mirror as you silently scream with everything you have. I am tired. Story 22. Not taking care of his body, or getting thinner or fatter, not shaving, showering, oily hair, not washing clothes or cleaning the house, laughing too much, obviously fake, losing interest in hobbies, dating, jokingly talking about self-harm, getting annoyed by everyone. Personally know someone like that, but this man lost his family in his teens and got taken advantage of by most women. Average-looking guy. He has a job though, but he seems stuck and not progressing. Maybe his life is only hanging by this work-family thread. He had therapy, which even worsened his condition, in my opinion. When you get to this point, it is very hard to improve, which lowers your chances of getting a girl. which she obviously very much needs. A family, partner, a guide. Watching this happen to my friend is very debilitating, as I have no idea on how to help. Simply being around as a support is not enough, because this type of hurt people are very cautious around others. They doubt sincerity. Everything. Story 23. I just left a 20-year relationship. For the last 5 to 10, she broke down my confidence, made me feel like everything was my fault. Could hate me for the smallest indiscretion, controlled every aspect of our lives, generally made me feel like complete crap. The worst thing is she didn't even do it on purpose, and still doesn't realize what a profound effect her personality changes had on me. After years, I'd lost contact with a few friends I had before and had zero confidence, lying to myself that I still loved her because I believed there was no other option for me. The only days I didn't hate were the ones she wasn't in. Then I made some friends, real friends, who value me and appreciate me and made me feel like I do have some worth. If not for them, I'd still be there and may well have resorted to extreme measures to escape my life. Eventually, I left because I realized that I would be happier single than with her, and with the support of my friends, it's panning out that way so far. I miss seeing my children every day, and I miss my in-laws, believe it or not. But I feel much more positive about life now. I'm not fixed yet, but I'm on the way. Story 24. As others have said, self-deprecating dark humor, vacant staring, intermittent angry outbursts, venting onto loved ones instead of the middle management schmucks that deserve it, tolerance of emotional cruelty to avoid having to hear your own voice go shrill, longing for, not doom, but peaceful oblivion. That actually makes me and others like me smile. The idea that at some point this crap ends. Another sign is the absence of old, long-term friends. Are you seeing a guy every day who's just alone? Yeah, that's a lot of us. Where'd they go? Well, kids, divorce, relocating for that ever-elusive perfect job make all that damn near impossible to maintain. So you get to deal with crushing loneliness too. Men, why do you often say you're fine even when you're not? When guys have an issue and tell someone else they only ever want a solution that maybe they haven't tried. I used to think this is what I was doing, but honestly, I just don't feel like talking to you about it. Maybe it's your fault, maybe it's not. And if we're close, it's okay to ask me whether it's one or the other, but don't be surprised if I also don't feel up to talking about why I don't want to talk about it. But guys, do talk about it. Find someone you're comfortable with. Venting and complaining while someone who makes you feel heard nods, validates your feelings, then offers the type or amount of feedback you actually want is amazing. Most of the time, I end up getting 10% of the way through it and going, yeah, you're right. I should just take a moment to reflect. Ask some questions and not take things so personally. I was just having a hard time getting over it. The I'm fine, really defense mechanism is strong in this one. Story 2. My ex was like this. I talk about how I felt and I wound up making her angry. It became about her or redirecting the things I was supposedly doing wrong as though my emotions were somehow a blame or criticism of her, and she needed to even the game. It wasn't. And I wound up, as others have said, needing to placate, backtrack, get back onto the I'm fine, shouldn't have mentioned it train. God forbid it actually was something she was doing that was causing distress. Bringing it up would end with, well, I guess we should just break up. No, let's just work on working together. No? Okay, I apologize. I'll do better. Sorry. Every time I was the one trying to diffuse and get back on track, work together, willing to concede, surrender my emotions, and let it go in favor of trying to balance us again. Every single time. She seemed incapable of that. And talking about when I was going through negative emotions only ever turned into a conversation about her or what I was doing wrong. I recall a time she said something like, "What's wrong?" I said I was depressed, and she said that was frustrating and tiring, and she was over having to deal with it. That I was the problem for feeling like that. Made me never want to talk with her about it, but it wasn't even about her. Nearly 8 years and it didn't work out. Wish I knew she'd never change earlier, or rather, accepted she wouldn't. There are girls out there who aren't like that. Story 3. Evidence of me not being fine will be used against me. Setting doesn't matter in my experience. One of my grandparents passed away during high school. I was very close with him. A year later, I was still not doing great, and the other kids were calling me an emo wuss to my face. And 2 of my teachers yelled at me to move on and participate in class. I was still doing great in school, just didn't care to engage with others much. In grad school, for the health field, a close family member had a serious health condition and I thought they were going to pass away, so I tried working remotely. This was years before lockdown, but it was fine. Yes, my work quality suffered, but was still generally good. It amounted to an extra round or 2 of edits on paper. I thought we were good, since they stressed balance and mental health since we are in the health field. Well, someone didn't like it and wanted me in the office. The chair rolled their eyes at me and said, "If you can't handle your personal problems, I don't think a career in research is for you. Do you even want to be here?" What is especially infuriating about my grad school experience is that the student had free reign to take a few weeks off after her cat passed away. I have more stories like the above. Damn near every man I know has, and it's awful. Having people not give a crap would be an improvement. Story 4. My best friend I served in Iraq with ended himself. I cried every night. My fiancée complained that I don't ask for help. I asked her to sit with me. She told me she knows I just sit out there and cry. She needs to prioritize sleep. I mentioned that I struggle with a specific thing because of an incident in Iraq that involved children. She responded, "There were kids on the opposite side, so why should it impact you?" I mentioned I struggle with sleep because of PTSD, and she dropped to her knees and clasped her hands and began shouting, "Oh my PTSD! Oh my PTSD!" This was the first and last time I mentioned PTSD in our relationship. I tried to explain my needs to her, and her response was, "We aren't discussing your needs until all mine are met." So, while some women may not be on this extreme, all women are on this wavelength. As men, we can be seen as your protector and desired, or as something vulnerable and discarded. We have to pick whether we want a relationship or a confidant. I've learned a woman can't be my confidant. Men need to confide in men and let women dance in their field of emotional immaturity and bliss. Story 5. In my experience, giving voice to my problems invites others to examine my life and try to figure out why they're my own fault. If only I was more like them, I would not have these problems. If my friends are awful, I just need to go to Friend Mart and get new ones. If my job is terrible, I need to go get one of those $140,000 a year job off the top shelf at Job Mart. If my health is bad, it's because I drink milk or don't drink milk, eat meat or don't eat meat, drink coffee or drink tea, eat sugar or eat aspartame, or I'm on a keto diet, etc. If I'm depressed, I need to cheer up or exercise more, clean the house or sunbathe. If I'm fat, it's because I lack willpower and sneak out when no one is looking to snarf down 2 large Pizza Hut pies a day. If I'm skinny, it's because I lack willpower and give in to societal pressure to starve myself or purge after eating. Lack of energy is just me being lazy. Why would I be sick? They've not been sick a day in the last 20 years, except the 4 times a year they're forgetting about. They just think it and they don't get sick. I must not be thinking well thoughts hard enough. Don't worry about passing away. I'll go to a better place if I've been a good person. I so hate people right now. Story 6. Almost always, because if you say anything other than fine or good, it doesn't usually result in a positive conversation. Most people don't want to be emotionally dumped on, and society tends to expect us to keep our chin up. I still haven't figured out how to properly deal with my negative emotions, and it's excruciating, frankly. Yes, I'm going to therapy. The American medical system treats symptoms, not causes, so I'm stuck with talking to someone who's just punching the clock and letting me go on about myself. I doubt they really care, and I don't blame them. They're doing their job. I'm not terribly interested in talking psychotropic medicines and further empowering Big Pharma. Are there plenty of ways for me to improve myself and self-treat? Certainly. It's my fault for not having the willpower to conquer my fears and quit smoking, soda, and cut back on screen time, among other things. Really, I'm just extremely lonely. I was an NICU baby, and despite having a childhood that, on paper, was quite good, I've become aware of just how dysfunctional my brain is, and it makes every little thing into a struggle when it doesn't have to be. My emotions gyrate wildly. I'm extremely self-involved and have a hard time paying attention to anything that I'm not extremely interested in. I hope I can get out of my own head someday. Some days it's very nice in here. Other days, not so much. I'm fine. Story 7. Because nobody actually cares. It's trendy to say you care. It's trendy to encourage your man to be vulnerable. But you know what happens when we do finally choose to take the risk and be vulnerable? A. We find ourselves consoling others. B. We find our friends and partners pulling away. Don't you ever tell me you care. There's not a single soul on this planet that isn't paid by the hour that truly gives a crap about what a man is going through. This is what life has taught me, and it's not for lack of trying. I've tried being open with those who say they care, and the only thing it brings is more pain and more isolation. Once the veil of invulnerability and tenacity is compromised, no one wants you. Stop kidding yourself, ladies. Once the genie's out of the bottle, it's game over for us. Imagine a world where just speaking your heart and soul means potentially sacrificing a relationship you cherish. Remember, vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. It takes courage to open up. Story 8. There's some variation, but almost universally, people have a desire to be understood. Guarantee every man was honest many times and then learned from experience that no one gives a crap and that sharing is very often a negative experience for everyone involved. People then pressure men to open up with theoretically good intentions, but it's honestly a bit insulting when people act like they know better than men's lived experiences. Everyone probably thinks they're different and actually care because we like to think of ourselves as good people, and good people care. And you might even care about the man, but guarantee 999 out of 1,000 of you don't give a single crap about his problems. It's not entirely gendered. Everyone experiences that dynamic a bit, but I don't think most women can really comprehend just how much people do not give a crap about men. Story 9. Wow, I'm only ever hearing that they want a solution to said thing. This is so far from the truth. There's a lot of times this is true, I'd say about 30 to 40%, but the rest is they need to be able to be vulnerable and comforted. But they probably don't realize that, as they most likely have never had it. Most men in Western society are raised with this idea that they can't show weakness ever, not even to the one they love most. Unfortunately, this idea has been reinforced by women who either lose respect, emasculated the man for being weak, coward, beta, etc., turned off and disgusted, or use this moment of vulnerability as a weapon against them. Typically in a few ways. 1, what you're saying is hurting my feelings, and said partner gets emotional, makes it about them. 2, we'll call it back up later to humiliate the man. 3, to call the man weaker than he really is. 4, you're not who I thought you were, I'm done, I'm out, etc. But they don't want sympathy or pity. That's not what they really need. All they need, what is really desired more often than not, is to know they don't always have to be strong all the time. That they can rely on you to be there for them, to be soft and gentle and caring. Men are pillars of strength. We can hold up the whole world for long periods of time and take an insane amount of external cruelty and stress from the world. But there's times when we need a break to allow ourselves to truly let our guard down, to relax and let everything out, to know that you will have our back even if we're only human. Now, if you noticed I said external cruelty, we have very thick armor around our hearts, and we need it to survive in our modern world. But to the very few we take that armor off for and let inside, that's the most vulnerable and frightening place a man can allow someone to be. And unfortunately, they are normally betrayed time and again, over and over, relentlessly for years. Story 10. Many partners have asked me to open up more, and through years of therapy and work and just getting older, I have. But I had one partner that wanted me to open up, and when I did, she said she started getting the ick, hearing about my problems, and thought I was less of a man. Telling that to my brothers and guy friends, turns out it's not uncommon. I do think there are partners out there that want what they think is vulnerability, but when presented with actual vulnerability, are turned off by what it looks like. I think their idea of what that looks like is crying over babies or puppies, but handling everything else internally and not bringing it up. I don't think it should be a fine line, but sometimes it is. That's not opening up. Story 11. Because you experience a loss of social capital when expressing any emotions besides being angry, tired, or getting hammered. And women, before you say, that's only other men who penalize guys for that, or I would appreciate a man who expresses emotions. No, you wouldn't. You appreciate a man who listens to and validates your emotions. Once he wants support from you, you get the ick and bounce. Just like how when most men say they want a woman with a sense of humor, they don't mean someone funnier than them with their own material. They mean someone who gets and laughs at their jokes. There are always exceptions, but the general rule is men who appear vulnerable or even cry, they lose most of their audience immediately. Women get to be listened to and empathized with for free. Men have to pay for therapy or suffer social consequences. And to be clear, they should go to therapy. It's great, but that doesn't change the outside world's inability to hold space for male emotions. Story 12. It's because in evolutionary and historic terms, showing any sign of weakness for a man often turned out to be a fatal mistake. Men have to be strong, the rock in any relationship or family, because nobody else will fulfill that role for them. Women and children have the luxury of showing weakness and vulnerability. They'll even get social brownie points for it. Approval, sympathy, and all sorts of help from every corner. Our entire society is set up for the benefit of women and children. The opposite is true for men. Show weakness and people around you will rapidly lose respect for you. In the case of women, any attraction will be gone instantly. Your enemies will see your weakness and take advantage of it almost immediately. Powerful men, in particular, cannot afford to show any of it. They must always project confidence and strength, even if internally they're afraid and unsure of themselves. That is simply what being a man is about. It's not only humans either. For the males of other species, this is doubly true. We actually have it relatively easy compared to them. Story 13. Because most people don't actually care or want help. Just like most people don't want honesty, they want to hear what makes them feel good. And it's not just friends or loved ones that make us feel that way. Even doctors are supposed to help us basically say, yep, take it. That's life. Deal with it. I'm actually in a better spot mentally now that I've been taking better physical care of myself, but This is a small list of what is going through my brain basically at all times. I have a full page of house projects that need to get done, none of which cost under like $5,000 because the house is so old. Sole provider for myself, my girlfriend, her two kids, both of our dogs. So literally failure at any point to make enough to float the boat means it all sinks, and no one is going to help. Girlfriend has major medical issues, which doctors have basically told us, yep, too bad. It's not bad enough for us to do anything. So make some life adjustments and see you later. Even though she passes out all the time and has almost passed away from it more than a few times, still helping out around the house and with the kids as much as I can, aside from cooking because I'm crap at that. Making $35 an hour currently, and it's still just enough to get by. I have zero medical coverage currently, aside from the VA because our work company is too small to provide it internally. We can be reimbursed for coverage from the market, but it only covers around $400-ish a month. Everything else is out of pocket. And some of the cheapest, most bare minimum coverage that I couldn't even use because all the doctors in my area that are covered won't take any new clients. Does little to nothing. And anyone who has used the VA knows the quality of your care is on par with how much you pay, and VA is free for vets. So how good do you think it is? Girlfriend is constantly depressed due to her health, BPD, and a laundry list of other medical issues that I can do nothing about, causing her not to take care of herself and thus make all of it even worse. I personally have ADHD to battle with, and if I forget my meds even for a day, my temper spirals out of control for no reason, just because my brain is broken. Paying all the bills for everything except for food. Thankfully, she gets benefits for that, technically being a single mom. And this is the basic day-to-day stuff, not even counting a bad day. Like today, when my girlfriend's car broke down on the way to dropping the kids off. But now I likely have at least a $1,000 bill to fix everything wrong with that. And this is a small list. Now I could talk your ear off for hours if I actually told you every little thing going on in my brain at any given time. This is just what I could think of while typing just now. What's going to fix any of this? Who's going to help? I'm a white man in corn-fed Central America. Despite what any trend or bias says, men are the spearhead. We take all the weight, grit our teeth, and smile because no one, not a single person actually cares. And we don't expect them to because every man knows every other guy is dealing with the same. It's unspoken man law. And sure, we have friends, and sure, we can vent, but it doesn't change or fix anything, so there's no point. Story 14. Most of us are just dealing with a down moment that we know we'll get over soon, so we just need to ride it out. Other times, it's because people will tell you at work or any other time that isn't convenient to speak, so we're fine signals we don't want to talk about it at the moment. The other times we say we're fine is because we don't want to talk about it because we don't want to be a distraction to others. And or we know people don't take male grief seriously. You'll get told by all sorts of people that you need to get tough or you're being a little wuss and exaggerating your problems. Everyone is at a different level in their growth and development, so a word of encouragement or just support or sympathy can actually lift our spirits because we often feel alone and lost. So knowing other people care or are willing to offer support is the reassurance we need when we're feeling extra down. Story 15. A lot of men have gone with opening up to a partner only to be told the partner gets the ick because their man showed the vulnerability they desperately wanted their partner to show. Get betrayed like that and you see it as a trap. You hear about it happening to one or two friends and it puts fear in you. Let's say you're struggling with someone. Do you also want to lose your partner by opening up about your struggle when you have a real fear that they'll leave because you aren't being manly enough? Even women who want an emotional guy who opens up often just decide, wow, he cried. What a wuss. There are plenty of women who will hold a guy crying, support them like they want support, but there are enough women who decide to get the ick from it that men tend to keep quiet. Same goes with a lot of guys as well. They see friends crying as weak and are put off with it, so guys tend to not do that around other guys either. Women who cry tend to get support from both women and men, so have not much to fear about it. Men, it's a landmine field out there, and it's incredibly hard to trust the person saying you can tell them the truth. Story 16. Because early on in most men's childhoods, it becomes blatantly apparent that nobody cares if you're fine or not. Asking a man whether they're okay is now just a part of social etiquette or polite small talk. We learn very early on that saying we're not fine is not met with compassion but judgment and ridicule. People think less of us as men when we say we're not okay or that we are feeling blue or that something bad happened. Even if our plight is met with genuine empathy, we fear it is all for show. We fear silent judgment and gossip, even when total disaster strikes, such that it is obvious that no sane human being would ever be okay. We will either say we're fine, ignore the question, get angry at the question, because we know we cannot say we are not okay and are being asked anyway, or make light of the situation as show bravado. So how am I? I'm doing fine. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 17. If this is an adjacent argument to why do women say they're fine when they're not, I think it's counterintuitive because, from my experience, when a woman said they were fine, they were just stalling for when they finally had the words to fully express all of the ideas that bubbled up in their mind that they've been begrudgingly waiting to bring up, as they've been accumulating over time. When a man says they're fine, they're either fine or just coping with the idea that the person who wronged them will find a way to shift responsibility to them, causing more harm than it would be worth to bring up the problem in the first place. I'm fine basically means I'll probably be fine, but there's a chance I'm going to stop putting up with this crap and find someone else. This is purely based on my own experience and may not be the truth for all. Story 18. If talking to women, you fear that if you open up to them, the information will be thrown back at you when having an argument, that includes female family members. Family also talks, so talking to a mother who can't keep her mouth shut means anything I say to her in confidence ends up being known about by everyone. So I don't talk to her anymore and then get complained at because I don't tell her things anymore. Keeping our troubles to ourselves means that no one can use it against us, but it means we get no support. If talking to male friends, depending on what's troubling you, you don't want to share because they could make fun of you because of the problems. So all in all, it's best to keep problems to yourself. But that in itself means that male rates are far higher than they should be because men struggle to find someone who will be non-judgmental and will offer advice and support, rather than ridicule and make fun of. Story 19. I've done that a few times in my life and it's blown up in my face every damn time. I got kicked out of the place I was staying. My sister stopped talking to me after doing that once. She saw me cry and that was the last time we saw each other IRL. She still wants to talk, but she just doesn't want to know about any of my problems. That's after being there for her over a decade, helping her raise my nephew. I used to smile all the time at work, but after talking to a lady at work about life, she said, "With all the bad crap that's happened, why do you smile so much?" I smiled because I wasn't homeless and had food. But what I said spread like wildfire and I felt super self-conscious. So I stopped smiling. At another job after work, some of the ladies from the front office came to the warehouse to hand out something, maybe snacks or flyers, to let traffic settle down a bit. Mother's Day was that weekend, so people were talking about what they were doing for their mothers. I said, "I'm not doing anything for my mom. She was a drinker who abandoned me." They all talked more about how sad that she would do that. She must have been going through a lot in order for her to turn to drinking. They had more sympathy for the mom who abandoned me than the kid who was homeless. The chance that people will use what you say against you is far greater than them showing you any compassion for what you went through. Never open up. It's not worth it. I'm fine. Story 20. I was raised as if I was a man. So while my brain and biological state disagree, I can speak to a psychological aspect. There's a few different reasons, and they are semi-interwoven. It's something that I'm still processing, and I'm sure even unaware that I'm not okay. It's something that I processed and realized that I need time to get past and don't want to share, which can be for a few reasons, which lead into 3. Society taught me that it's not okay for me to share what's bothering me without censoring myself. And sometimes, that means not sharing at all. It can be because what I share upsets others for whatever reason, and it's my responsibility to not upset others. It can be because I know there's a very real chance to get ridiculed for what's bothering me. It can be because I might get the response that other people have whatever worse, etc. And honestly, it can be a combination of all of them. So ultimately, I was conditioned to not share when I can avoid it. I am working on overcoming it now that I understand it, but that's still why. Now, additionally, I see some of those same pressures placed on everyone, regardless of gender presentation, identity, or assumptions. But I think to some degree, society as a whole doesn't really like people being open. Some of that is assumedly cultural, but it makes it hard to navigate and closes a lot of people off. I don't think that the struggle is exclusive to men. However, there is possibly physiological or brain things that can contribute to it. Hormones are weirdly powerful. They sound so simple when we talk about them in basic conversations, but they actually impact so many things. Like the immune system, for example. Story 21. Nothing dries up a woman faster than a self-pitying man. And they use it against you later, even the good ones. It's almost never a good plan, especially in a relationship. If I want to vent, I'll choose a close, trusted male friend that actually understands me, and I'll keep it limited. I'm not going to spend the whole evening wallowing, or maybe a therapist that's trained to do so. I don't think a relationship is a place for that. Or maybe I'll leave an anonymous comment in a Reddit thread. Also, no one cares, really. Your friends and girlfriends are not therapists. It's not their job. They're there for a good time, and that's fair. I also hate when people trauma dump on me. People got their own crap to focus on. Yes, we can support each other, but no one wants a useless friend wrapped up in self-pity and depression. It's honestly just lame and repulsive behavior. Story 22. For myself, it's multi-layered. It depends who or when. For example, my significant other is a very emotional person. She's in therapy and working on it, and has a lot of PTSD. And a few times I've mentioned something, it ends up with me confronting her or an argument that could have just not happened by saying I'm fine and moving on. Also, with my teen daughters, teens have a lot of things going on. I have them every other week, 50-50 physical. They do not jive well with their mother. So when they come over, I end up being their rock. No one likes a rock that can break. Also, I am the primary caretaker of my grandmother. She lives with us, and saying things are fine is better than repeating the same thing 10 times and explaining. Then there are friends. I help them with their issues enough that I don't want to add or pile on. Don't worry, though. I am in therapy and I do mitigate it best I can with video games, football, and when I do have a day to myself, a little Mary Jane and music. And my kids are older and my significant other, will be wife tomorrow, hoot, is in a better mental state, I will start to open up more. Story 23. Talking to you is a burden for me. I'm dealing with an issue that is consuming any extra energy I would have had to try and have a meaningful and polite conversation with you. You're normally hurt by things said in the wrong tone or in any way that can be misinterpreted. I carry that weight in most of my dealings with you, and I do not have the strength right now. You can't relate. Your point of reference is too far away from me to feel that you can sympathize. Just being a different gender or race, your lived experiences are not the same. Not to undercut your trauma, but is it really the same as mine? It makes me vulnerable. I've been down this road before, and in every instance, I've been burned by those I've opened up to before. I told you this in confidence, so it should be in the vault, not brought up to hurt me in the next argument we have. I would not want it told to your friends for you all to discuss. I do not want pity. I can't spend sympathy. I can't turn pity into a tool to fix this. I can't mend my hurt with your empathy. You can't help in any way that matters. You can't make my girlfriend to not have cheated on me. You can't change the score on my test. You can't remove the cancer from my dad. You can't stop me from waking up late and getting in trouble with my boss. I don't need the normal platitudes or simple solutions you'll probably say. Story 24. From random people, I'll receive advice that is irrelevant to my situation, or even worse, I'll be derided from the choices I made that got me to the position of not feeling fine. With a person asking, having no intellectual curiosity as to how I ended up there, I must just be stupid. I already know I'm stupid. I don't need you pointing it out in an even more useless way since you don't know the facts. With true friends, I answer honestly. I'm as blunt as I can be. With relationship prospects, I make bad choices. I choose dismissive avoidance over people who have demonstrated that they actually care about me. This personality type will literally lose interest in you and stop respecting you when you demonstrate emotional vulnerability. Rather than choose different women, ones who actually care about me, I choose to date ones who require a lie with, I'm fine. That's a deep character flaw on my part that I'm working on. I put myself in that box, so I don't get to complain about it. Above all, it's a feeling that I exist to solve problems for others. When I stop solving other people's problems, I become useless. I see this repeated in most of my life experiences. It's tough when people offer unsolicited advice or dismiss your feelings. Remember that you don't owe anyone an explanation for how you're feeling. Story 25. Because society and no one in it loves or cares about men unconditionally. Our value is based on competence, confidence, calmness under pressure, and the ability to provide. Any deviation from that causes them to lose status, and particularly in relationships, confessing any weakness will sometimes become weaponized against them. Of course, that is the worst-case scenario, but when the best-case scenario still amounts to your significant other losing some level of respect for you, it's really not worth it. In terms of male or female pairings anyway. It's like that Chris Rock joke. Husband loses his job, wife says, "Don't worry, we can make some changes and get rid of some things if we have to." She's talking about you. I've known many men get fired and conceal it from their wives as long as possible. I know one man who ended it all because his marriage fell apart afterward. But all doom and gloom aside, the primary reason is that talking about feelings just isn't that cathartic for us. In many ways, it's almost opposite. It's like reliving a bad experience. Also, men are both solution and future-oriented. If we open up to someone, it's because we seek their advice as opposed to their acknowledgement. But when that involves a confession of weakness as well, we're going to be very picky about who we open up to. I also want to point out the whole woe is me, no one gives a crap because I'm a man, is grossly exaggerated these days. Most men can talk to their bros and or best male friend when they need to. Also, a big reason why men don't use therapy is because therapy isn't designed for us and because male camaraderie is therapy for us. We don't get that from a professional. We only get it from a true friend. Story 26. Toxic masculinity. Society has pestered us into not showing weakness. This has occurred in many forms, including being made fun of in K-12 school whenever you cry, expose any weak points or display a lack of strength, parents giving you the old, "stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about," and then, literally harming you. And of course, women being profoundly turned off to insane levels anytime a man shows any weakness, therapeutically vents, or anything like that. It gives women the ick. In general, society doesn't get as turned off by flawed, vulnerable women as it does by flawed men. If you think you're capable of still finding a flawed man attractive, then the example you're thinking of is probably a character in a movie that is portrayed by a famous, attractive millionaire that you have rock solid, unshakable attraction to. Women want to date a callous, fatherly, handyman lumberjack, not a dude with problems. Obviously, men have much weaker support systems. Men don't support other men much, but that would give some kind of vibes. Women don't emotionally support men much, especially if they're not already in a relationship, because in their own minds, women believe that men would take it as flirtation if women showed them a tiny little shred of interest. Same reason my men only get like one compliment from women every 20 years. So basically, can't open up to anyone, because no one is suitable to open up to. Story 27. Because they often haven't been asked genuinely, nor been safe to answer genuinely, as well as experiencing emotional cruelty when their vulnerabilities and traumatic memories are then weaponized against them. A lot of men in the current day were raised by mothers who valued prioritizing their child's privilege to be successful over creating safe homes with love and compassion at the forefront. There isn't emotional safety there. Or without a mother, without a father, without stability, without anyone to tell them they were safe to share without being judged. How many of us in today's world have watched our own elders or seen as bystanders to others' dysfunctional families sacrifice their own and ultimately anyone else within their family's mental well-being to ensure whatever financial security and stability was maintained by not leaving their relationships? Often multi-generational, often happening simultaneously. They have been conditioned to be disingenuous about communicating or never taught how to express their feelings and inner thoughts, and punished in some way or another when they actually are able to be vulnerable and genuine. Many, many, many men, but also just all of us. Our current societies often don't benefit from being genuine or vulnerable. Story 28. Because who's gonna listen if we aren't? Lol. I actively voiced my idea of ending it all for about 7 years of my life, all for it to be completely ignored. I was even made fun of for it. Nobody cares. When the first time someone genuinely asked me if I was okay, when I got my first weapon, they weren't asking because they cared about me. They were asking because they saw me as a threat at that moment in time. Now, in their eyes, I no longer am capable of hurting just myself, but others too. To be absolutely clear, I had or have no intention of hurting anyone else, nor do I have any of hurting myself at this point. I bought the weapon for self-defense and sport. I'm working towards my degree and have reached unspeakable milestones for someone in my position, whereas most people with my mental health issues end up gone, broke, and or almost entirely dependent on others. I'm thriving in independence. Just bought my own place and haven't even graduated college yet. Working towards my career. Working every day. No FMLA, no using disability. Not much they do for us anyhow. Haven't been hospitalized once. Clean record. So basically I say I'm okay because I know nobody actually cares, and over the years, I've grown all right with that. Life, to me now, at least, is all about putting on a face. Pretending. I pretend I'm okay all the time now. I pretend I care about others. I pretend you matter, but I never matter to you. That's just the world we live in. All we can do is live, one day at a time. Story 29. There's usually no point to it. It's mostly just awkward to both say and hear, and that's in the best case scenario. Most likely, we'll be met with the advice that we should just say or do or think differently. Am I right? But if that was the case, we would have done it. Or if we were able to, we would have done it. Often, though, we are locked in a perspective. And while changing perspective is a strong approach to problem solving and other more external cases, I do believe I identify the part of me that has difficulty with using it as a tool internally. It's very man-defining. To avoid generalizing that women are like that, I mean. You'd often in modern narratives and culture find men able to change their perspective being posed as modern and strong, and the men that aren't are antagonists, even considered toxic. Most men don't want to be considered toxic or anti-anything, so when we're locked into any perspective, even one that makes us feel like crap, we're much more likely to not say anything and rather quell the pain inside. When you're talking about personal problems rooted in gender roles, this is a typical cross to bear for men. It's quite heavy, but that's crosses, am I right? To anchor the point about gender roles, it stems from men being supposed to be fixers, and so when we can't fix ourselves, we prefer to pretend nothing is broken. Otherwise, as explained above, we might be interpreted as really believing nothing is broken. Of course, ignoring is a double-edged sword and the other edge is denial. So yeah, one could easily end up becoming the beast exactly by trying not to. Feel like I just had a tiny therapy session by myself here. But that's crosses, am I right, guys? Story 30. Because it's hard to express just how difficult things are when surrounded by a sea of chants about how your gender combined, your race, or your financial status all supposedly contribute to making your problems somehow less personally meaningful. Why bother bringing up your issues when you know someone else is just going to shout about how your problems can wait because X other group is having issues that they feel are more important? When you try to voice an issue and the response is, that's the result of the patriarchy, and most men have neither contributed to nor benefited meaningfully from it outside of a vague social understanding that it exists, and those in power utilize it to stay in control. Personally, I've been told several times by friends that it's not their job to help with my emotional struggles. And fair play, that's true. But you can only hear that so many times before you assume that any kind of discussion about personal issues is just distracting the people around you from what they're trying to focus on, to distract from their own. It's easier to not rock the boat and keep your social circle around you than reveal yourself as a person in need of support and potentially be rejected for it. Story 31. As a 39-year-old man, there are multiple reasons. For me, a lot of it goes back to the whole thing of men are strong and don't cry. Crying is for women and children. Be a man. Toughen up. Being the unwitting mantra of a boy's life for decades is an effect in one's mentality. I get picked on for being sensitive, pestered relentlessly, and became afraid to allow myself to be open about my feelings because I didn't want to be seen as weak. Growing up like that makes it difficult to process new or big emotions. If we already struggle with talking about basic ones, how the hell are we expected to know how to handle a complex emotional situation? That being said, since I started being open and honest with myself emotionally, I've also managed to get a better understanding of myself and can talk about things much easier, which has made my relationships way stronger. Story 32. If I've ever brought up what was bothering me to a partner, it has caused more issues and led to them being upset with me, making the issues worse or creating new ones. If I ever bring up issues to my family, I get told how stupid it is and how I just need to do this or get over it when their advice couldn't be helpful in any way. Every time I brought up my issues or what's bothering me to my friends, they just act like they didn't hear me and change the subject or just say, yeah, man. Like I rarely ever share my feelings anymore because it just causes even more issues and nobody really gives a crap about it. Other than me, so why even waste time trying? I'm sure other men have had different experiences, but that's mine. And that's why I just don't even care to talk about it now. Story 33. It is a mixture of societal issues, infant trauma, past experiences, and lack of utility. They link between them. To begin with societal issues, in most societies in the world, men are valued in utility and little less. Even that utility is ranked. Even if you're pretty or your presence is calming and happy, if you don't provide, you're shunned. This has massive effects in a man's life. Friends will dump you, your love life will deteriorate at excessive speed, and you lose access to many things that you use to patch your feelings with, and receive no benefit by sharing any sort of feeling outside of motivation. One of the worst aspects is the way women around you just have no capacity to properly deal with a wounded man. They believe they do, but they always provide what he doesn't need and what they wouldn't give their own female friends. It is sometimes funny too. If a girlfriend came with the same issue, they'd know how to react, but when it's you, they're shockingly emotionally resourceless. Then child trauma. Due to the above, it is nailed very deeply into you what'll happen if you deviate, and every time you do, everyone around you shows you that whoever traumatized you is right. Even going further, not just resourceless, but overtly damaging. As others have said in this thread, many women will directly punish you, gaslight you, or entirely misunderstand what you explain, only to, in the near or even sometimes comically far future, bring it up at another low to completely emotionally cripple you. It isn't like there's any light at the end of the tunnel either. You might feel a little bit lighter emotionally, but you'll be tortured by the shattered image, and there's literally no benefit for an emotionally open individual who doesn't produce. Hence, you bottle it up and go on with your life, as the investment isn't worth it. So, as any human being does, you bottle it up. Funnily enough, we're mostly the same. I cannot tell you the amount of times male friends of mine have shown incredible lack of tact, and they've shown me or other friends in the group that they're capable. What are some men's issues that are overlooked? I'm a single father with primary custody of a school-aged child with little social support in my area. I was also the stay-at-home parent while I went back to college and completed my degree. It is damn near impossible to find good childcare. My female work friends volunteer but then bail at the last minute. I'm looked at as a threat by husbands of my son's classmates' parents. I find that I'm often the only guy at the playground and get sideways glances from the cliques of women who go there. If I hire a babysitter, I have to make sure I'm overly cautious about respecting boundaries. If I'm even able to have a babysitter watch my child. Also, the normal competition among female mothers gets amplified and I'm often looked down on as a parent.
I don't fit in with working guys who just want to go out and get a beer because I have a child to take care of, and women often reject me on online dating sites simply because I have a child. I love my son and would do anything in the world for him. I feel like I've done a lot, but men in my situation of zero to little support or infrastructure to manage as a single, full-time parent in society. Men can be just as good parents as women, and society needs to normalize this pronto. At least he's not the only one struggling. I hear those soccer mom carpools are a whole different level of organized chaos. Story 2. I saw a woman attempting to hit her boyfriend outside a local supermarket. He walked away from her. She followed him and kept hitting him. After this went on for about 90 seconds, he shoved her away roughly once. Two cars immediately stopped and men jumped out of them, shouting at and threatening this guy for shoving her. Nobody did anything when she was attacking him. I reported the incident to the security guard. Both the man and the woman were bigger than me. I'm not a big or tough person. There are limits to what I would ever get physically involved in, plus, when the other people jumped out of their cars, they could just as easily have targeted me if I had gotten involved. I did what I could without endangering myself. Story 3. Insecurity in general. You're not supposed to show that you have doubts or worries about your abilities or self-image. A man is supposed to be confident, able, and self-assured. It's not okay for men to admit that they lack self-esteem or that they have genuine problems with their self-image, as they are seen as weaknesses in and of themselves. Other men or women aren't going to bring you up. They won't provide emotional support and tell you it's okay to be inconfident or to feel shame about who you are. They will simply expect that you should take it on the chin. Not everyone can be that guy. But for a man, what actually makes you feel like a man is being that guy. So you kind of walk around pretending that you're happy, despite the fact that you're not seen as valuable or as desirable as other men. Because in doing so, you would be seen as even less valuable or desirable. Story 4. Emotional cruelty of men. My boyfriend suffered that in both his marriages, and I am so careful to not say or do anything that could make him feel the way that made him feel. I try very hard to be sure he knows I value him for who he is, just the way he is, every single day. Even he doesn't know how much damage they caused him. I'll never get over this 1950s assumption that women can't mistreat men. Women mistreat men way more often than anyone realizes, and the system is stacked against men in so many different ways. To the men who have been emotionally mistreated, I am so sorry, and I would encourage all of you to seek therapy. It really does help. To the women who love them, don't stop loving them. Story 5. Dated a girl in high school for a while. Her parents were prejudiced, so it ended junior year or so. Well, we kept fooling around until senior year when her mom found out and told her, "Say he mistreated you or I'll call the cops myself." I walk into class one day with everyone giving an odd vibe but sat down like normal. Get called into the guidance counselor's office and asked if I mistreated my ex. We dated all throughout high school. Everyone knew or saw us. I literally just talked to the dude about a college plan the day prior. Instantly felt a pit in my heart and got sick. Left school and went home crying. I felt less than a human being randomly accused of something utterly horrible. Couldn't eat or sleep for days. By the weekend, everyone was apparently grilling her because this was straight BS with the admission of her mom forcing her to do it. What did I get as a 17-year-old? Nothing. Didn't get an apology, didn't get offered therapy. Nothing happened to her, just, "You mistreated me. Oh, never mind." Everything went back to normal for the school. I went to school just enough not to get suspended and stayed home the rest of senior year. Didn't even go to prom. It's essentially taken 10 years in recent therapy for me to get over what happened. Even though I want to date, I'll forever be wary of women because if that happens to me as an adult, my life is over. Women scoff at false accusations because they don't happen often as mistreatment. All it shouldn't be happening in the first place and absolutely destroys your life perspectives, mental health, and ability to have relationships at any capacity. Story 6. I think that the timetables of adulthood being pushed back for millennials and Generation Z will lead to increased depression amongst men. What I mean is this. As the benchmarks of adulthood, like marriage, children, home ownership, career growth, savings, etc., are all happening later for millennials and Zoomers. In the prior generations, there's a greater likelihood of becoming lost in your 20s and early 30s. To a certain extent, a mortgage, a marriage, and a child ground you, strip you of free time and ability to enjoy recreational or habitual usage of substances. You focus more on career, earnings, and savings. This isn't to say you become happier in all regards, but, well, grounded. The depressive nature as well will be amplified when a generation of 28 to 35-year-old men look around on social media and see their classmates now flourishing in houses, with children, and taking the best pictures of their life. When the majority are unmarried and not house owners, I find depression rates will skyrocket. I'm not sure what to exactly title this issue. Delayed adulthood? As it is not just economic, but cultural. I'm rambling now. Story 7. I know I'm a bit late on this, but it really bothers me a lot and I haven't seen it mentioned. We're expected to do everything and do it well. From standards placed by parents, study and work hard to get into a good college, then work hard at a job to make a lot of money. Save up in your 401k. Find a wife and settle down by 30, then buy a house, get a promotion, cure cancer, etc. The standards in dating, they need to be funny, smart, kind, work out, be able to have a conversation with a brick wall, be intimate enough but not too much, and somehow know where that line is without actually talking about it because talking about it comes off as something a loser would do. But also sleep with tons of girls. This one is placed on by friends, unfortunately. Make a lot of money, have a decent hairline, be tall, have a nice car, have an expensive apartment, etc. Just feels like that's where the bar is, and there's no one saying, it's okay for you to mess up. Be 30 with no significant other inside and not be crapping sunshine and daisies out of your back. And there isn't really anyone to talk to about it either. Story 8. Society doesn't seem to support a man who is without a job. There's pressure and programming for a male to be a breadwinner and no sympathy for when they want to be a house dad. Reason for my rant? My brother left a job due to a health issue. He has a 4-year-old boy. His wife makes better money than him and they're financially secure. He worked too much, which probably led to the health issue. I told him to take his time and heal. If he felt that urge to provide, that he could take over the house duties and give the nanny the summer off to connect with his son. I shared with him that I'd been laid off a few times and each time I rushed back to getting a job even though we were secure enough because of the guilt I felt every day of not providing. He took the advice. I could see him smiling more. He started a garden with his boy. He cooked every meal and realized he loved to cook. I was happy to see him being happy again. Enter my brother's wife, who says to us, I'm the only breadwinner now. I'm so stressed out having to provide for this family by myself. I saw the happiness drain from him and anxiety filled that place. He's now set to start the same job he had prior just to appease the guilt he has from not earning. The guilt was confirmed by his wife's statement on top of the male programming of not contributing unless he's making money. Story 9. I would say to those around my age group, 22 to 34-ish, I believe who suffered from having some really crappy parenting. Of course, that's not just our age group's problem, but there was so much neglect and lack of direction given on an unprecedented level to some of us. Generations above had stricter, more authoritarian parents, but they were guided into careers, marriage, and the housing market. Some of us in our age group had parents who seriously had no care in the world. Had our egos a little because it was easier and we were left with nothing. Given no financial support after 18 because our parents were not financially stable themselves, no real emotional guidance, never even taught how to shave. Maybe it was Gen X's way of rebelling against their stricter upbringing. Story 10. An epidemic of meaninglessness. Fathers are considered the optional parent. Men can't carry a family in their income. Blue-collar men see their prospects of dimmed as wages have stagnated and job security has disappeared. White-collar men are finding fewer opportunities and greater competition as well. Men are made the center of the joke in popular culture, with sitcoms basically reincarnating Homer Simpson 1,000 times over as the stereotypical male figure. TVs and movies are giving us all a complex with cut, muscular Adonises making us with beer bellies, afraid to take our shirts off at the beach. Anything traditionally masculine is either mocked or accessible to anyone with a few bucks. Hot cars, motorcycles, cool clothes. If you don't look great, you're made fun of. But if you try too hard, you'll get laughed at for it. Dating apps make us all feel small and undesirable, except for the top 10% of super attractive dudes. And what happens when you exit your 20s or 30s? And divorce. Better have your life in order because divorce leaves you with nothing at all but debt, alimony, and the lack of options since you're now an old dude. Where does one find meaning and validation when the traditional avenues are no longer available? On the bright side, we're all experts at changing a tire. That's gotta count for something, right? Story 11. If you're single and an adult, at least in some countries, you're pretty much devoid of human contact. I don't mean communication. I mean nobody touches you. You don't get hugged, you don't have anyone to cuddle, you don't get a hand on the shoulder for reassurance or whatever. It's as if no one is allowed to touch you. You're off limits. I'm perpetually single. Not an incel, I'm just shy and introverted and a host of other things, not least of which both not really knowing how to flirt and not even trying, so I'm single simply because I've barely ever tried not to be single, and I'm 34 years old. Ladies, imagine if the last time you've been snuggled or kissed or otherwise comforted in a physical contact sort of way was 34 years ago. That's what I'm living. Every day. I think this is why some guys go crazy when they get dumped. Their one source of affection in their life is gone, and they have no idea if they'll find another one again. Maybe that would be me, but I've never really been anything except alone in that regard, so I've gotten accustomed to it, I guess. Story 12. A few things that need to end. Treating men as creeps. When I went through the Faculty of Education to become a teacher, my faculty advisor took me aside and told me that she had to see if I was conditioning students, because it's something they have to look for with male elementary school teachers. There was no similar test for female teacher candidates. I didn't borrow $70,000 from my degrees to go conditioning on girls. The small Johnson energy thing. Everybody is different. Some people are skinny, some people are tall, and some people have small Johnsons. I know men who are terrified to change in a dressing room because they've been shamed all their lives, and this needs to stop. And guys who have overly large ones sometimes don't get to enjoy everything they could be enjoying. It's not what you're packing, it's how you use it. Treating fathers as babysitters. I'm not a babysitter. I'm a father. I contributed DNA to create that child, so don't tell people that I'm babysitting while you go out for the evening. You can call it bonding, father-son time, or daddy-daughter day, but don't call it babysitting. Crying is feminine. I've taught boys who were told that they were girls if they cried, even if they were hit in the nose with a volleyball. Crying is natural. It is normal. We have to start teaching boys that crying doesn't make them less masculine. Story 13. It's not as serious as any of these other issues, but romance. Men are expected to make every birthday, every anniversary, sometimes multiple anniversaries, every Valentine's Day, every Christmas, every Mother's Day if she has a kid, and a bunch of other random days throughout the year special. And while special varies for every woman, the bar is rarely low. If you're lucky, she's okay with gifts that are just a little more expensive than you can really afford. If you're not, she may expect you to plan a whole fancy date or create some kind of artwork for her or some other dramatic, expensive, and/or time-consuming gesture. And even if it's not a special day, there are still expectations to be met. Again, it varies. It may be a constant string of compliments or insistence that you spend all your free time with her, or even just intimacy whenever she wants it and at no other time. And you have to keep switching things up or else it gets boring. And the spark goes out of your relationship and she leaves you for someone who's a worse partner than you are in every way except the one thing she feels like she's missing. And what does she have to do in exchange? What are men's standards for what women have to do to keep being romantic? At most, passively accept intimacy on occasion. Sometimes not even that. I'm sure keeping up a romance for decades of marriage comes naturally for some men, but for the rest of us, it's an exhausting, crazy-making, moving goalpost that it feels like you can never hold on to for so long. Story 14. Physical affection is only dependably attainable through intimacy. For many, that is the real obsession with getting laid. Hugs and cuddles are not manly. Hugging another man brings your masculinity into question. Then, when you try to put it into words, there's always someone around to think you're saying something misogynist if you hint at any unfairness towards men. Absolutely anything. That's how you get MGTOW, incels, men's rights, and the like. It starts with knowing something is wrong and not being able to put a finger on it. Then, as you try to find words, some virtue-signaling, ironically heartless imbecile tries to push your comments into black and white hyperbolic thinking. You get stuck defending crap you didn't really believe because you've been categorized and labeled by a fool who should have led with charity before attacking you, or triggering over with their own cringe. A word to the wise, not every offensive statement or potentially offensive statement is about you. Story 15. The negative aspect patriarchy has on men, such as being expected to man up and keep a stiff upper lip, not display strong emotions, especially not crying, not seek help for mental health issues and issues of macho culture. Male victims aren't taken very seriously, and even cases of female teachers mistreating students have been treated less seriously than the same situation with the gender swapped. Anything that runs counter to heteronormative hypermasculinity can draw derision in many circles even today. And there are legacy considerations like only men being required to sign for the military draft, which is currently not much of an issue in this era of an all-volunteer force, but could become relevant again one day. People forget that gender equality is about more than combating discrimination against women. It's about giving men and women equal rights and responsibilities in society, and freeing them from harmfully rigid gender roles. Story 16. Normalizing being platonic friends with women. I don't know why, but I've just found it easier to make friends with women. People have told me it's because I'm more emotionally intelligent and in tune with myself, so sure, lol, I'll take it. But every time I become friends with one, my guy friends and family will tell me it's only a matter of time and hint towards us fooling around and stuff. And like, sometimes, yeah, I wouldn't mind if it were to go further, but sometimes I'm just not attracted to them like that. But I've literally had people tell me that men and women don't just be friends. That we will inevitably either fool around or all be friend zoned and used. Like, who hurt you? Yeah, I guess it's not the worst thing in the world, and that pressure has actually gotten me in a relationship before, but other times, it's just really annoying and makes the friendship awkward. Story 17. Gay men aren't seen by society as real men and are treated differently. As a result, there's a level of privilege. Not really a privilege, but for lack of a better word, and a level of danger that comes with that. My voice is a clear giveaway, apparently stereotypically speaking, so a lot of people assume I am gay without me having to tell them. Of course, there's the homophobia of it all, but on another level, society sees me as less threatening and even sees me more as a woman than as a man despite being a beefy, bearded gentleman. Girls have opened up to me easier because they know I'm gay, and because of that, I won't exploit their vulnerability to try to have intimacy with them. On the flip side, my opinion regarding topics associated with manhood is usually invalidated because of my gender. People are shocked when they find out I love working on cars because they associate that with manhood. It's a weird position to be in when you don't identify as a woman, but there is some rejection from the male community as well. To some degree, you feel like you stand alone. Story 18. Men's health in general and some surprising areas. Traditionally, a lot of women's health issues have been overlooked. Women passed away of childbirth at unheard of rates. But in a lot of cases, now it is men's health that is overlooked. The rate of prostate cancer in men is much higher than the rate of breast cancer in women, but more money goes into breast cancer research and there is far more awareness. I get that a lot of it is because prostate cancer is much more likely to hit older men, and frankly, the geezer is likely to pass away from something else before the cancer gets him, but still. Take heart disease. It is laudable that women who have traditionally been forgotten in heart disease research are now being heard, but it is a fact that far more younger men will pass away young of heart disease than women. 40-year-old men pass away from widowmakers all the time. It is exceedingly rare for a 40-year-old woman to pass away from a massive heart attack unless there's a congenital defect or the woman led an extremely unhealthy life. The heart disease rate shoots up upon menopause. So yes, women shouldn't be forgotten, but more focus should be on men because it is more likely to hit them at a younger age and harder. Story 19. There's no the masculine mystique, and there needs to be. So a bit of background. The Feminine Mystique was a book published in the early 1960s that tackled the idea that the only fulfilling life a woman could have was as a homemaker and stay-at-home parent. It was revolutionary in that it openly discussed not just that women were dissatisfied in having to sacrifice their personal lives, but what those personal lives actually might have looked at. It gave a whole generation of women the backing to say, I'm not just a mother and wife. I'm a person, damn it. The male version of that has been long overdue, in my honest opinion. A book where men can voice their frustration at society's demands that they fit a certain mold and what happens when they just don't match up. It'll be rough going. A lot of criticism leveled at TFM was that it focused on women who were whiners or had something intrinsically wrong with them so they couldn't be satisfied in a traditional role. I'm sure the same thing will happen with the TMM. It's just one of those things that men and their women allies will have to keep on pushing until society as a whole catches on. I think there's definite change happening, but it's extremely slow. A good survey published for public consumption and marketed the hell out of has the potential to speed that up. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 20. In school, boys are often at a disadvantage, and by that, often end up with worse test results. Also, due to the fact that boys tend to be a bit louder in class, teachers often don't like them as much, and sadly, how much a teacher likes you affects your grade way more than it should. Surprisingly, many countries are still pretending like women are at a disadvantage in school, which has proven to be as far from the truth as possible. Additionally, the mainstream media often just say girls are just smarter when presented with statistics about boys being worse in school, on average, although there isn't any proven connection between gender and intelligence, or at least not significant enough to justify the enormous gap in grades. But take this with a grain of salt. The only study that seemed to actually not be made up for the most part was the PISA study, and from my own experience, I can say that most of the boys in my class aren't really trying really hard to get good grades. Still, we should definitely pay attention to the development of this problem. Story 21. Women complain about unrealistic beauty standards and social media hurting women, but many times those same women will either gloss over or even perpetuate posts like, all men are creeps. If a woman lying about her looks is serious enough to address women's mental health, then I think thousands of feminists on Reddit directly attacking all men and directly putting them down must be equally, if not far more damaging to men's health and should also be taken seriously. But if you dare say that feminism has any negative aspects at all, you will be banned. I'll probably be banned for this comment, honestly. For what it's worth, I think gender equality or equity is absolutely a good thing. I think it's time for gender stereotypes to pass. But I don't think that all men are evil, and I think that most men also support gender equality and are tired of gender stereotypes. At least all non-Republican men. I wish that men could have a role in creating a society free of gender roles, but women won't allow it. And frankly, without both genders having a hand in it, it will never be equitable. And I would think feminists would understand that, but they don't, and they'll ban you for suggesting it. I'm starting to think the real problem here isn't gender roles, it's that everyone's banned from having an opinion. Story 22. I think it's quite sad that it isn't socially accepted for men to have really close friends. I see memes about it, but it is a serious thing. Girls go to the bathroom together and boys can even accidentally touch arms without being called gay. There wasn't anything wrong with being gay, but being gay became somewhat of an insult, especially in schools. Such a thing can get out of hand and it can become bullying. Can we just have friends we're really close with? No romantic relationship, but just sleeping together in one bed in a hotel because that's all we can afford nowadays? Story 23. I am a woman, but I definitely see a trend of very high standards set for men, specifically fathers. They're expected to work so hard and make so many sacrifices, forced to choose between a good job that provides for their kids or a crappy paying job so that dad can actually be home with them and know what's going on in their lives. They're expected to support a whole family in an economy that requires two salaries just to make ends meet, and most of it all seems like they're not allowed to talk about the stress and negative feelings these expectations cause. I'm speaking mostly of my husband's experience. When we had our son, I stayed home with him for quite a while, and my partner worked two jobs and we were still struggling. He never told me just how far in debt we had dug ourselves until years later because he didn't want to stress me out or make me feel guilty. But knowing he had to worry and stress about it all completely on his own and not be able to even talk about it with me broke my heart. Story 24. As a teacher and a guy who grew up without a father figure, I know most of the little kids I teach, especially in the areas I've taught, don't see their fathers if they're in their lives at all. I know they crave and realistically at their age need a positive male role model and, to an extent, affection and love from a male figure in their lives. I'm more than happy to give out hugs and head pats and just be very caring to the kids. It's part of the whole loco parentis thing. What I hate is that most of the time it's frowned upon. Other female teachers will give me dirty looks and I'll get complaints from the higher-ups at the school, but these same female teachers will openly go and hug the children and discuss beach bodies and all that crap in class. The double standard is ridiculous. Just because I hug a child who is crying in my class doesn't make me a creep. Story 25. I think there's a lot of casual misandry that gets parroted in the media that would simply not be acceptable when discussing women, and it can be quite frustrating after a while. For example, straight white men are discussed as a group for all examples of toxic masculinity, and the same media just dismisses the criticism of their overly stereotyped views as #not all men. The flip side is that men have a strict set of expectations that they're expected to live up to, and when you deviate, you can easily just end up in the loser bucket. So what if I'm not ambitious about my career and I instead put my energies into video games and hobbies? At least I'm enjoying myself. For women, full-time work is still something of a choice, though who knows for how long. For men, it's an obligation. There isn't any choice in the matter. Your value is to a great degree determined by what you do and how much money you earn, not by the content of your character. Story 26. I've been hated for no reason for so long, it just became what everyone hated. Screw it. Obviously trying to show people, going out of my way for people just shows that I'm someone easy to use, so screw that. Screw everyone. I've been done with it for years. Honestly, it's very freeing. No romantic relationship, no kids, no family, no stupid religion, very limited friends. I keep my money for myself and be as selfish as I want now. It's all thanks to people. So thank you to all of you. I just wish a nuclear world war would break out now since lockdown is apparently failing. Story 27. With one accusation, our lives and livelihood can be destroyed. I'll preface this by saying we should absolutely take every accusation seriously. It only takes one woman looking for a payday for your employer in form of compensation not to go to court. Only one vindictive lady who just doesn't like you. Only one overly ambitious gal who wants you out of the company to climb the ladder to start a rumor. If you get rich or own a company, you always need to have witnesses. You never want to be alone with a strange woman. I feel like a lot of women don't understand how powerful they are. With a few sentences, they can get a man fired and not able to gain employment and cause you to lose everything you've worked for. Even if she was lying and all charges were dropped, no company could take the liability to hire that man. I'm not at all suggesting women should not come forward, and I have no idea how to fix the situation other than all people should just be good to one another. Story 28. Men have a lot of issues that women never have to face in their entire lives.
Some obvious issues include prostate cancer, a higher likelihood of homelessness, higher risks of depression and anxiety, even a higher chance of being denied the mental health help we need, and being more likely to go through with plans to end it all. Less obvious but equally as important issues include a higher chance of being born with autism, getting laughed at and ridiculed after being mistreated, as well as being denied any and all help after being mistreated, being pressured into getting into lines of work where we're more likely to be in danger, and being ostracized and outright shunned by society if you don't take those high-risk or low-reward jobs. We're also just as likely to be victims by our spouses, as well as being cheated on and being abandoned by our spouses for reasons such as insurance policies, extramarital relationships, or a mix of both. Of course, we're taken more seriously when we are children, but once we hit the age of 18, things only get worse. Story 29. Smaller one I didn't see posted by expectation and relationship dynamics. It's always on us while some shifts expectation. We ask or initiate dating, some women are asking now, but still mostly men. That expectation that you pay. Some say okay with Dutch, never met a man or woman that went on a second date after going Dutch. Met a few say they were okay with it, but never seen them follow through. Then you are likely the proposer as well as provide a decent ring, etc. Then has to make her day special. It's all about her. Then comes anniversaries, Valentine's Day. Big expectations from guys. Meanwhile, a card and maybe a whistle if you made it special. Otherwise, you're going to be chastised about being cheap. Expectations seem to be always one way, and while a lot of this has improved, it's still far more common than not. And sure, it's not how male mistreatment is joked about in mainstream media or homelessness or lack of emotional support, but it is kind of far-reaching into a lot of interactions. Story 30. In the workplace, I'm a male nurse. I'm literally a man in a female-dominated profession. So guess who gets stuck with a scary prisoner patient because I'm a guy? Guess who gets all the 400-plus patients because I'm a big, strong guy? Guess who also gets all the schmuck patients because I'm a guy and they won't act as badly as me? It's almost predictable. In certain units and situations, mainly ICUs, you'll get a handful of women who will look down on you because you're a man, and because of that, you can't manage your time well. You're not as empathetic or as caring or as organized or quick on your feet. They'll never give you the time of day, and when they do, they never have anything nice to say. And in the midst of all this, a good portion of these women think it's their God-given right to speak their minds and be witches, and as soon as you give it right back to them, you're reported to management or HR for being aggressive or threatening or inappropriate. It's happened to me. It's happened to my male coworkers as well as male friends, and not just in nursing either. Story 31. One night after my ex-wife hit me repeatedly, I left with the baby. The police were called and were told they took the child. They came looking for me, and when I told them what happened, they said, "Oh, well, sorry to hear that." I went back on patrol. My ex then tried multiple times to break into where I was staying with our son, trying to break into our safe to get my weapon that was still at the house. I had the only key. I called the police again and was told, maybe you should go get a CPO on Monday. So first thing Monday morning, I went to the courthouse, and the victim advocate turned me away at first because she thought I was lying, and anyway, they don't allow men at the domestic violence shelter. I had to fill out most of the application myself, and if it wasn't for my ex coming to the courthouse looking for me and getting belligerent as the judge was entering, I don't think I would have gone one. I always think that if the roles were reversed, I would have immediately been in jail the first night and she would have access to unlimited resources. Story 32. Literally all of them. Nobody cares about men. We're just supposed to suck up any issues we have and be a man. I see this every day in my own life. Whenever I bring up any complaint, I'm met with a sarcastic attitude as if my problems don't actually matter or that I should just suck it up. There's no better example of this than Earl Silverman, who was so pestered for trying to create a place for mistreated men to seek help, then he ended up ending it all. He was trying to create a male equivalent of women's shelters, trying to help men who needed it, was labeled a sexist and had his business and life ruined. Women and children are loved unconditionally just for who they are, but nobody cares about men unless they provide something useful. And even when they do, they often get used and taken advantage of for that thing instead of treated like a human being. Just look at how many stay-at-home moms there are while their husbands go to work compared to the number of stay-at-home husbands. Story 33. Orders of protection are granted to women very easily without any proof of cruelty required. Once an order is in place, the police have to arrest the man when the wife calls in and states that she's been attacked by the husband. By the time that the man is able to prove that he wasn't cruel to his wife, it's too late, and the arrangements for the children and future visitation policies have been established by the court. Unfortunately, there are many men that mistreat their wives, but the system can be played and women can really destroy their ex's futures and the relationship that they have with their children as well. The system isn't built to detect this fraudulent mistreatment. Story 34. Toxic masculinity. According to society, all men have to do manly things like fix cars or something.
It said that a man can't be a dancer or do something as simple as pick flowers without getting criticized for not being a real man. Real men should respect everyone and not judge people for what they do. I don't want to hear that toxic masculinity doesn't exist crap because clearly it does and nobody can convince me otherwise. I've witnessed it with how my dad treats my brother. Always tells him, that's for girls, whenever something remotely feminine comes up. My little brother isn't even in middle school yet and he's already getting his stuff put in his brain. It also happens to a lot of other boys. They could grow up thinking messed up things like that aren't okay. Story 35. As a woman who was on an inpatient psychiatric ward, 72-hour-old, danger to myself, never others, I 100% feel I need to justify that, and if I tell someone I have bipolar, or I used to self-harm, or that I was never a danger to others, never wanted to hurt anyone else, not once, but I feel like people generally believe me. I don't think men in the same exact circumstances get that same understanding. People think of mentally ill women as dangerous to themselves, and mentally ill men as dangerous to others. In my experience, and I have no research, but also in my experience that isn't true. And I can say without research that those are not assumptions that should be made because every person is different. I just find it highly unfair. One of the people that was nice to me in the psych ward was a homeless man who recognized me from my college town, extremely tiny town, and I went downtown to get public transit to visit home a lot. He had paranoid schizophrenia, but I truly don't believe for a second he would have hurt a soul, but had someone met him on the street, they would have likely assumed he was mentally ill and dangerous when he was just kind. Men deserve proper mental health care and to be able to discuss it openly. Now, it's not there yet for women either, but it's definitely more widely accepted. Story 36. I'm not a creep, I swear. I love kids, but I refuse to interact with them in a playful or affectionate way because I've been approached about it before. I'm only 25, so things are going to continue to go downhill from here. Mental health and solitude. In the process of planning my wedding, I had to be hospitalized and have emergency surgery for collapsed lung in April. Being the emotional support system for my fiancé and dealing with changes to my freedom with recovery. I teared up in my hospital bed, and it was the first time I cried in years, since my grandmother passed away in 2019. I had a great life growing up and live a pretty great life now, but with everything that has been affecting my emotional and mental state, ending it all was something I contemplated recently. I'm afraid to say I'm just having a hard time getting out of bed every day. I'm also afraid to talk about my problems because I don't want to be castrated by misandrists or mocked by alpha males. Worst part about being hopeless and alone is knowing that I'm far from being the only one. Story 37. The fact that women can be cruel. I'm not even talking about wives and girlfriends. My rant is about mothers. My mother mistreated me horrifically throughout my life, to the point I just cut off contact when I became an adult. 90% of people will not care or give a crap if I mention this unless I mention that she's tried to end me. Then it goes from, oh, she was a harsh disciplinarian and you just think it's mistreatment to, oh, she's actually cruel. But if I had at any point mentioned it was my father who mistreated me, no one would ever think he was just a strict man. The amount of times we've had child services or the police come to our door should have been a red flag all on its own, but they see my mother hear her BS sob story, single mother, no job, father absent, no parental help, and then give her a pass on whatever she's done to us, even when I've gone to my school's principal with multiple missing teeth and bruises all over my body. I will still be dealing with the mental issues caused by my mother long after she's gone. And the fact that I have to specify that I have PTSD or that she tried to end me before people take the cruelty seriously is disgusting. When a father is cruel, it's a horrible thing that society should condemn and all should help the victim. When a mother is cruel, it's ignored, excused, made a joke of, and generally just not taken seriously. Story 38. First, the double standard for custody. Imagine having a kid. The wife decides to leave you, there's nothing you can do about it, and your biggest life desire is for you to remain with your kid. Yet as soon as the trial starts, you already almost lost because it's better for kids to stay with their mothers. As in, why exactly? A baby I'd understand, but a 5 to 6-year-old kid, for example? What if both the mom and the dad are decent parents? Why would you give it to the mom in most cases and dad can only visit? I imagine that would end me inside or drive me mad for real. Second, some men are cruel, yes, make big mistakes, they have behavior and emotional issues, etc., but how come every time this comes up, not only that they are labeled as monsters or something, but more importantly, absolutely no one tries to teach them? Hey X, you messed it up with that girl. You shouldn't have manipulated or yelled or hit, etc. This is not okay at all, nor healthy. You should check this article out. Or let's talk a bit about this. See this shrink perhaps, etc. Nope, absolutely no one tries to teach them. Not their partner, not their parents. That would be ironic. Not their friends, not their colleagues, not people on Reddit who label, bash, and hate their likes. No one. Most people don't want to make the world better. They just want to label, condemn, isolate, exclude, and hate. That's how I see it, especially here on Reddit and especially on men. You save the girl, red flag, red flag, red flag, and you condemn the guy. It's the most classic behavior. Story 39. The amount of sexism towards men. Women are okay with judging men in appearance. Like if you're a fat man, it's okay for them to make fun of you. If you're a fat woman, then you're a beautiful queen who's not allowed to be judged. If you're not 6 foot tall, then it's a problem for a lot of women, and they're okay with openly making fun of men for being even an inch shorter. During intimacy, you're expected to know what you're doing and expected to have an amazing thing, even though we don't choose what kind of thing we have. Basically, if anything is wrong with your appearance, then it's an open game for women to openly make fun of you for it. However, if you even say one thing slightly bad to a woman, then it's seen as sexist, and you're immediately seen as someone who hates women. Hell, if you want to talk about statistics of who is more hated, men take the cake by far. Men are statistically the most gender by a large margin. The only reason women are seen as oppressed in today's media is because of sexism in the past, and the wage gap, which, while technically true, the wage gap is not done by companies, but actually females statistically tend to ask for less money than men. And since all companies ask how much you would like to be paid so they can pay you less than they should, women end up getting paid less just due to genetics, I guess. My guess is that women are in general more caring and charismatic, and that makes them ask for less without realizing it. I don't know, though. What problems do modern men face? Being treated like second-class parents pretty much everywhere they go. I've told the story on Reddit before, but the double standard is disgusting. My wife passed away when our kids were very young. One was 2 and the other were about 11 months. Everywhere I went, I would get comments about, "Oh, daddy's day with the kids, huh?" But the absolute worst was when I took them out to eat one night. We got seated and waited for a good 15 minutes. Finally, the server comes over and goes, "Did you want to try to order or should we wait for mom?" It wasn't crowded. Realized from her use of the words "try to order" that she just deemed me incapable of knowing what to order for my kids. I was mad, so I said to her, "Well, we'd be waiting a long time. She's gone." This has been years ago, but it hasn't changed. There was a thread on Reddit not terribly long ago where some med student was talking about how she cringes whenever she sees a dad at a pediatric appointment because she just knows he's not going to know anything, and it had thousands of upvotes. I told her I hope she learned some better bedside manner before finishing med school than to cringe at anyone taking care of their kids. The double standard in parenting is wild. That med student needs to shadow him for a week. She'd learn more about parenting than she would about cringeworthy diagnoses. Story 2. I feel like when a guy has a problem, he doesn't really have anyone to talk to. You have those alpha guys who try to tell you that your problems aren't real or that you just need to hit the gym frequently for them to go away. On the other hand, we have people who say men should open up more about their feelings, but I think neither men or women have ever been taught how to handle an emotional man, so it comes across as awkward. Also, some people say that we should open up more but aren't interested in helping you. They just say it because, duh, it's so simple to solve your problem. Story 3. A program on the BBC interviewed an author who wrote a book about why the average bloke does weird things, like not wearing sunscreen for the first 3 days on vacation. The interviewer asks him what he thinks about the government proposing the government appointing a minister of men to deal specifically with men's issues, such as a high depression rate. He says, "I feel like we're not allowed to even have these discussions." Not even a minute later, 2 of the women on the panel start saying, "What about all the men who mistreat women? What about the pay gap? How about we fix those before we start pretending men have issues?" That's the gist, at least. It's wild, and it gets the point across about what it feels like to be a man. To be told that we don't share our feelings and then for nobody to care when you try. Story 4. Managing financial stability amidst economic uncertainties is a pressing concern for many modern men. Currently working full-time at a Big Four and doing a master's on the weekends. My salary is gone after the 10th day of getting paid. It's impossible to save money in this economy while paying all the monthly costs alone, trying to eat healthy and saving for future emergencies. I've developed insomnia because I just can't fall asleep without thinking about how to pay the bills. It's currently at a stage where I'm like, "Oh, I slept 3 hours. This was a good night." And then spend the next 13 hours at the office. And I wish this was my only issue. Went to the psychologist this year for the first time. Apparently, I've had anhedonia since I was a kid. Can't keep going to the psychologist because it's too expensive and the insurance only covers 15%. I stopped thinking about the future because there's nothing in the future that creates joyful thoughts. I'm only gaslighting myself that getting a master's will help me in the future, and this keeps me occupied. Turning 29 in April. This was not the life I wanted and expected when I was a kid. Every day is the same repetition of the previous day. Story 5. The short-circuiting of our brains through social media. Our brains never evolved with this level of connectedness in mind.
As a result, the innate need to compare oneself to another is turned up to 11 through hyperexposure, leading to many ailments. Affects both men and women, but differently. Story 6. Loneliness and depression. Men are told to figure things out on their own at a very young age, and if men ask for help, then men are viewed as being weak and unattractive. Also, when men do ask for help, they're not taken seriously and become even more isolated. Men are demonized for lashing out after bottling it in and not being able to express themselves. Men are told we need to control or ignore our anger or emotions when, in reality, our body or mind is telling us we need help and we need someone to talk to. People don't realize when women become unhappy or depressed, they cry, but when a man becomes unhappy or depressed, they become angry and lash out. People see that anger and shun men for their misbehavior, but in reality, it's just men crying out for help. There's no empathy or sympathy when a man messes up because he's a man and should figure it out, ignore their feelings. And with cancel culture, this makes it even worse. Instead of empathizing with men who cry out for help, society just ignores them. Story 7. Lack of prospects to find romantic affection is a big one. Love, despite what some people will say, is ultimately a need and not a want. Years, for many men, of inability to find a girlfriend results in lower self-esteem, lack of purpose, loneliness, repression, anxiety, etc. I know that a lot of people make fun of lonely guys, but I guarantee that if those people had actually experienced loneliness to the degree that many modern men have, they wouldn't be so glib. Story 8. You cannot be a victim as a man, yet in today's world, you're also supposed to talk about things you feel or experience. If you do and you're a man, you'll either be told to suck it up or be reminded that men made the patriarchy or whatever, and no pity should be spared. There's a lack of support emotionally because men have been taught to accept the short end of the stick as truths of life rather than something to talk about and work through. Our idea of close friends often doesn't even include people we can confide in regarding our mental health. Because you're bigger or stronger, you're always the instigator and aggressor in any conflict, no matter how it happened. And you just have to take it on the chin, because that's how everyone treats you. If you aren't actively doing something to make money or create something for later, then you have no value as a man. Who you are is valued very poorly. Just because you're a man, it hollows you out to not be doing anything for even a moment because that's your self-worth. You'll go weeks to several months at a time without physical contact with another person in any kind of platonic embrace. You probably can remember the last time you got a hug, but how recent was it? Being touch-starved adds to the loneliness, but that one hug can melt the darkness away. You have to avoid accidental eye contact with women in public spaces out of fear of causing unwanted discomfort. This adds to the isolation. You probably have not cried in several months, if not a year. It was taught to you that you're not allowed to cry because you're a man and men do not cry. Men do not show emotion. You bottle it up, but you cannot let it show either. The depression statistic continues to rise. Almost all men receive their first flowers at their funeral. Story 9. The fact that their fathers grew up in a world where all they had to do was graduate high school and get a job, and they could reasonably expect a house and wife and kids. That world doesn't exist anymore. The economy or housing market isn't like that. Women want partners who can tune in and be emotionally available. Modern men have little to no resources to deal with this new world, and often turn to reactionary figures and become tater tots. Story 10. Saw a Redditor post today about how she touched her favorite DJ's abs because his shirt was open, and he came down to the rail to say hi to the fans. No matter how many people told her, she didn't seem to comprehend that touching someone without their consent is generally not okay. This seems to happen to a lot of guys. The part where people don't understand that it isn't okay to touch anyone, no matter their gender, without their permission. I really do hope that it changes in society soon. Story 11. Sins of our fathers. Millennia of cruelty has gone unpunished. Now we have generations of justifiably angry women who want only two things. It boils down to bodily autonomy and the right to self-determination. That's legit and absolutely worth supporting and defending. Then there's those who feel a man should somehow be extra nice to them while the man is angrily being used as a whipping post for what some other schmucks did. I was born into this BS just like you. I've experienced all of it just like you, and I don't support it. I rail against it, but yeah, don't believe me. It's a tough situation. It's like everyone's playing a giant game of who hurt women the most. And the prize is more anger. Nobody wins. Story 12. To all the people here saying mental health is a big thing, I just wanted to let you know that I am a therapist whose focus is on working with men and boys. I'm part of a research group at my university that studies the psychology of men and masculinity. We publish in academic journals and do presentations, etc. There are people out there trying to get things going even though we're not there yet. Your struggles are real and important. And there are those of us that are out there trying to work with it. Story 13. Lack of engagement with other males. I haven't had somebody call me for a beer or watch a game in years. I'm the one always reaching out. It's demoralizing and negatively contributes to my mental health. There's just no effort with the males I'm around, and I don't know how to be a better friend. No engagement. I'm doing the calling, picking dates and times and events. If I turn my phone off, nobody would check up. Nobody else is trying to go out of their way. Being ghosted for months by people who would show up at my funeral and live a block away, then blame it on being busy. One friend I haven't seen since January, a best friend, the best man in my life, he said that he's just been busy. I'm working schooling and girlfriending and still can make time. Begging for friends to talk to, but they're just busy. Texts that are ignored and respond to others, like completely uninterested while I'm suffering in silence. I don't get it. No wonder depression rates are so high. There just is no real tribe anymore. My buddies from high school are emotionless and reverse blame or lack empathy. Friends from college and after just seem to disregard and blame shift. I get life is life, and it isn't a summer day of junior year with no plans, but they're just general disregard and lack of empathy. Self-reflection and crappiness hurts. Story 14. To sum it up, people don't care about you. Women don't care about you. You're viewed by most as an oppressor or a potential oppressor, or at best, a source of income and ego validation. Other men don't care about you. They're all desperate for the same things you're after, and they've been conditioned to not open up and discuss their feelings. Companies or governments don't care about you. You're a resource to be used and a pincushion to place most of their blames on. You're a fall guy to them. Otherwise, a lot of a man's life is to be ignored and disregarded. Don't talk back. Don't try to think you deserve more than you have. Just do the work you've been given and sacrifice for others. God, country, wife, until you pass away and are forgotten. If you're lucky, the only people who will truly give a crap about you will be your parents. If you're very lucky, then maybe also your wife or girlfriend. Welcome to the grind. Story 15. You're still supposed to be the strong and pursuing one, but also be emotional. But when you're emotional in the wrong scenario, you're a wuss. And when you're too demanding in the wrong scenario, you're pushy and don't respect boundaries. Also, you need to focus either on money or on having big muscles or six-pack or both. Short men also have it terrible as well as obese men. Body positivity is only for women. If a boy does girl things, it's still considered gay and perceived as a bad thing. Girls doing boy things is emancipated. If you're the man that cares for the children, most people will look down on you. Well, this is also true sometimes for SAH mothers. For men, it's much worse and more frequent. So basically, men are supposed to be emotional, but not too emotional. Strong, but not too strong. Rich, but not too rich. It's like trying to navigate a minefield while blindfolded and juggling flaming torches. Speaking of things you might want to keep private, ever wonder who's watching what you do online? Spoiler alert, it's everyone. Your internet provider, advertisers, hackers, even that one weird guy on public Wi-Fi. Now let's be real, your ISP can see your entire browsing history. Yes, even the incognito windows. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. Do you really want them knowing about that late-night research you've been doing? Didn't think so. That's where NordVPN comes in. With military-grade encryption, your data is locked down. Your IP, hidden. Your browsing history, completely private, even from your internet provider. Plus, with lightning-fast servers in over 118 countries, you can stream, shop, and game without lag or restrictions. No more annoying geo-blocks or buffering wheels, because online security isn't optional. It's essential. Protect your data. Protect your privacy, and maybe protect your dignity. Get NordVPN by clicking the link in the description. It's the best VPN out there. I've been using it at Rufus HQ for 2 years now. And if you use the link in the description,
You'll be supporting the channel, and you'll get 70% off plus 6 months free by using our link.
thanks for listening and supporting the channel. Now let's get back to the stories. Story 16. There's this idea that men have it so easy all the time and that they have no right to complain about anything. It's almost as if you constantly have to live with the idea that we're so lucky to have been born a man. Like you almost need to feel guilty for having it easier, especially as a white man. There's also a lot of generalizations. Like you need to apologize for the behavior of other men, or worse, you're seen as a certain kind of man, simply because you are a man. Not sure if I'm using the right words, and I also want to acknowledge the fact that we, as a society, are still far away from total equality. We should just be aware that we're not overdoing it, if that makes sense. Also, as a man, you can't be the victim of mistreatment in the eyes of some, because they enjoy it anyway, or they're not true men if they're unable to stand up against their oppressor. Story 17. Looked at as a second-class parent or a weirdo if you're a present parent. My wife and I are happily married with a daughter. However, even her own family will say things like how dad is going to babysit. It just seems to me like I'm looked at as being the secondary parent from the majority of people, and when I'm not, people look at me like I'm such a weirdo from strangers. I do worry about bringing my daughter around by myself because of my rotating work schedule. I often have weekdays off, but there's always someone giving me a side eye at the grocery store or wherever we are when we're out. She isn't quite old enough for the playground, but I am worried about those days in the future. Story 18. Never-ending loneliness. The entire worth of a man is purely based on how successful he is. I saw so many relationships in my life disappear as soon as I lost my job and went into depression. All your confidence and self-worth has to purely come from within. You'll never get a compliment. You'll never get someone to cheer you up even if you post something depressing. Won't get a helping hand or a random call to ask how everything is going. It's just depressing. No matter how hard you try to be empathetic, you will always be told horrible things because of nothing but gender. You're made to feel like a schmuck, whether you're successful or unsuccessful. Story 19. Double standards. Women are in a hive mind who are collectively responsible for every bad thing a woman does to a man. But apparently men are a hive mind who are collectively responsible for every bad thing a man does to a woman. Or at the very least, it's okay and understandable for a woman to behave that way. And we have to just take it, I guess. Moreover, good men are presumed to have some supernatural ability to connect with and command the respect of bad men and force them to change, as opposed to, being written off as victims of feminism or whatever. They have simply neglected to do so, presumably because we're just schmucks or something. Indeed, this is the prerequisite many feminists demand of good men before they stop actively belittling us and our problems. Of course, when good women are asked about the actions of bad women, they have nothing to do with it and can't possibly be expected to do anything about it because suddenly it's obvious to them that genders are not hive minds. They'll forget as soon as the conversation moves back to men. It's not all women's business that men don't feel emotionally safe sharing with them, and they'll quickly disavow women who make it unsafe for men to share by weaponizing their weakness against them, at least for the purposes of that specific conversation. But it's all men's business that women don't feel safe with men. And that way, we all apparently share the guilt and responsibility for whatever bad experiences she had. Literally just the homogeneity of the other applied to half of humanity. Story 20. I've never used any substances, drank alcohol, or smoked. I often get reactions like, "Are you for real?" Usually guys are like, "Dude, your life must be boring as heck." I don't usually respond, but, it's kind of sad that getting spiked is the highlight of most men's lives. My life isn't so boring that I need that. I have billions of ideas I want to bring to life and trillions of things I'd like to learn. A lot of men just lack interests. Not all of them, but a huge number. My older brother, for example, just comes home from work and drinks beer every evening. That's the coolest thing in his life. It's just sad. I try to show him how cool learning can be. I let him play my guitar whenever he wants. He still doesn't pick it up every evening, but he seems to enjoy it. I hope he develops a passion for learning because he talks about starting projects, but always puts it off until tomorrow. And well, tomorrow never comes. Story 21. As a man, I have to carry a lot of weight, both literally and figuratively. Literally, everyone asks me to carry couches and furniture. Some of it looks impossible for someone my size to carry, but somehow I make it happen. Nobody asks my sister to move anything because, wait for it, she's a girl. An entire gender expected to have hard labor free of charge and free of complaint. And then everyone wonders why our backs hurt at 35 and call us lazy when we just want to rest on the weekends. Then my sister that I live alone with complains I don't do enough dishes, but she forgets I also mow the lawn, including garden care, take out the trash, the recyclables, and lift anything heavy up and down 2 stories of stairs. I do plenty of dishes. Certainly more than half in exchange for dinner is the deal. I don't get dinner every day, but I certainly have to do the dishes every day. All the while she complains that I'm not doing enough, and I take it because she's in college. When you go to college, there's this sort of leniency that society gives you. Oh, she doesn't need a job, she's in college. Oh, she doesn't need to do as many chores. She's in college. As for the man who didn't go to college, or rather, I dropped out because I had too much physical labor and a demanding life, and like her, I don't get any leniency. I get the opposite. Oh, he deserves to suffer and work hard because he isn't in college. That damn bum. Here's another thing. I went to apply to my sister's job several years ago, and instead of putting me in the office with her, which is what I requested, where they needed people desperately, they took one look at my youth and the fact that I was a man and threw me into the warehouse. On freaking night shift. That is the beauty of being a man. Our backs are used to fuel society. We carry the literal weight of society while Females get desk jobs and complain about society being sexist against them while men get put on the back burner. I have lots of really good friends. I can cry to none of them. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 22. The hero's journey for men is crumbling. We're supposed to go forth and adventure. We're treated like cattle today, and there's little risk worth the reward. For me, I haven't had good mentors either. I still talk to a former boss who was my best boss, but he screwed me over before just as much as he's helped me. Fickle or crumbling job market. I've applied to almost all jobs available in my industry on LinkedIn, and Indeed. I will have applied to all within the next week. The work is just not there like it was the past 2 years. On top of that, nobody understands my job, so I get stuffed in the closet and forgotten somewhere with every job I take. I made enough money to take my family of 4 out to eat 3 or 4 times a paycheck and travel around once or twice just last year. Now we're just able to pay bills and go out once, if lucky. I don't have a big house, and things like our cars are paid off. If men complain about this stuff, we get told that they could be worse, or, well, you could just do X job that either couldn't support a family or would take more years of training or schooling. Worry that World War III will start any day because of geriatric idiot bureaucrats across the globe whose lineage will be preserved to greed, while myself and or my children may have to fight. Lack of meaningful friendships. I had a large group of friends that lasted long after high school, but now I really only talk to one friend. The rest are further down the chain than I am. No family, no prospects, only video games. I've attempted to make new friends, but nothing lasts long. My dad is a great man, but he was never home growing up. My mom passed away a month before she got to meet her first grandchild. Dad took up with a parasite of a girl almost 30 years younger than him. He's lost his marbles. We don't talk. Not being able to discuss that we've gotten close to depression, but don't really want to do it. I talked to a therapist, which I won't be able to soon, even with insurance, and it's hard articulating what I have going on without revealing the S word. I know it's not a good thing, and I don't want to do it. I can talk about it without doing it, but if I do, I'll get canned. Story 23. This is a mature female perspective. Men are in a mental health crisis. Loneliness, lacking emotional connection to another person, be it with another guy or a female, is debilitating. Someone needs to spearhead a community roundtable to address how to change the culture of loneliness with men. Men of all generations are in crisis. After retirement, older men realized the only friends they had were in the workplace. Younger men moving to a new city struggle to find new male friends. Going to breweries and sucking down beer is not the answer. Maybe start a meetup group to tackle the issue. Try to enlist a panel of men who are psychologists, social workers, psychiatrists, counselors. Hey, you guys are great at organizing elaborate fantasy football groups. Take that same enthusiasm and organize an event on how to solve this issue. Story 24. Our gender is demonized. I understand women have problems with their gender being judged, but I'm sorry, I would much rather be a pick-me, attention queen, etc., than a predator or a creep. Innocent men think saying hi to a woman will label them as a creep or predator. Expressing our gender is now horrible. Me Too is great for exposing cruel men and predators, but to be fair, these types of men don't care for the law. They have no morals or empathy. Take the average man now. He has no nefarious intentions, but he already feels as if he expresses his interest, he'd be a creep. Now women are scratching their head thinking, I'm giving this guy hints to approach me, but he isn't doing it. No man is. Story 25. Men now have all the responsibilities and burdens of the equal privileges. Men are expected to uphold traditional norms while also being modern. We're still expected to be the breadwinners, protectors, and leaders, but also share in homemaking and childcare. This is good, but all burdens should be shared. Women should be expected to provide, rather than pursue their dreams as men have. They should be expected to fend for themselves or protect men from perceived dangers. They should take initiative in relationships and spoil men. Story 26. The same problems many people face in general. The world of contradictions we find ourselves in. We are expected to open up about our feelings, yet when we do, there is often no one willing or able to listen. The fact that opportunities for advancement in the workplace are not actually based on merit, so there goes the work hard and it will happen mantra. The polarizing political spectrum that allows virtually no room for free thought or open debate, as doing so will often remove the support networks most people sign on to them for. The expectation that your life should be a never-ending highlight reel, and the constant disappointment that it is not. And lastly, human nature. The belief that we hold some kind of special place in the universe that gives us the right to judge others negatively, lie or cheat or steal under the pretense of free enterprise. The near complete lack of honesty and accountability with oneself and actions. There's a line in the Kevin Smith film Dogma where Bartleby says to Loki, "These humans were given paradise and they destroyed it." The older I get, the more I believe it. Story 27. Loss of constructive and supportive man-only spaces. Boy Scouts is a huge example of this. I'll admit I was one of the girls who was upset about not being allowed in BSA, but I grew up and now I realize how important it is for guys to have a constructive space for just them. There are so many women-centric spaces that it just seems like we're leaving men behind. In a similar vein, the demonization of a hobby if it's catering to a male audience. What's so wrong with a Warhammer 40k or video gaming or martial arts or Dungeons and Dragons community being mostly men? Or shown in anime having a mostly male demographic? These are spaces that guys used to be pestered for occupying. Now they're pestered for occupying them once again and expected to turn over their hobbies to the general public. Things are celebrated for being by women for women. So why do men have to open up their hobbies for a wider audience? I know these seem trivial compared to the big issues listed in this thread, but I've seen the difference having a space for only the guys makes. And they're willing to let others in if you're genuinely passionate about the hobby. But the issue is, many aren't. They're only in it for the trend. Take over the space, change it to suit their tastes, and move on. The influencers of hobbies. And it seems to be a huge issue for hobbies that cater to men, which are often the first point of constructive male spaces. So it all ties back. I think the reason we see so many men getting into gym culture is because it is a constructive hobby space, where they won't get judged by their fellow gym goers and will find support, even if it is only for the workout. Story 28. For me, I'm nearly 30, have no one. No good friends, no partner, no family. I relate to the past having the same lineage, and I don't really have anything worth mentioning past usual adult things. I worked on myself and my career through my whole 20s, but it has just left me alone and feeling like there's no meaning to absolutely anything. I used to like traveling, but a recent solo trip really highlighted how lonely I was, and while I spoke to some new people while I was away, it isn't going to lead to anything meaningful. I'm also really tired of putting effort in to try and form connections and it being very one-sided. And I've sadly found myself putting in less and less, towards no effort with people at all now. Just an empty shell. I started therapy to see if that could lead to some positivity, but it hasn't really helped so far. Story 29. Being underappreciated. You'll often find yourself having to please everyone around you just to keep them happy, all while you go often underperceived. Rarely do you hear a family go out of their way to show dad appreciation or celebrate it. It's expected of men to bust their back and not complain. Just be there in the background, taking care of crap while the rest of the family revels in the spoils. Story 30. From my experience, a modern problem that men face that I haven't seen listed is the constant requirement to be competitive with practically everything. Some examples. Growing up, you can't just be okay at something. You have to be great at it. If it's not a sport or physical activity, it's music, academics, or something as simple as just being funny. You're always competing against your peers to amount to something. This begins at a young age and works its way into adulthood. We see so many men so hyper-focused on their modern version of what it is to be somebody. Men chasing after success, women, status, power. Men chasing the next big thing, comparing, competing against other men. Men who do not find a way out of the state of being usually end up having a hard time relating to others, end up burnt out because they're so wrapped up in their constant need to affirm this worldview that's been instilled in them, constantly wrapped up in grasping outwards. There's no time to look inwards, let alone even realize this is a skill to be learned. Even taking the time to reach this skill is a challenging and painful process, because when a majority of your life is spent looking outwards towards achievements to gain a sense of self, you end up realizing that inside, you're empty. What sense of self does a man have if he does not know who he is? He isn't his car, his career, or the man that he simply set out to appear to be. He's lost. The man who is nowhere near successful struggles all the same, but its manifestation is a completely different illustration of how it's expressed. In conclusion, most modern men do not know who they are, and do not know how to realize who they are, and it's strongly tied to societal pressures and expectations of who they should be, and how they should behave. To me, this is a major cause of depression rates, loneliness, and difficulty connecting to the self, such as feeling safe crying. To me, this is one of the major root issues happening with men that doesn't even factor in the other compiling issues that they face. Story 31. Finding a sensible and healthy balance between being masculine but also empathetic and understanding to softness. I think Scott Galloway has a really strong sense of what it means to be a modern man and explains it really well in Diary of a CEO, but also in his podcast. On a more personal note, a few years ago I really fell down the alt-right rabbit hole. I always knew I wasn't homophobic. I was reasonably progressive. I just didn't understand some stuff, but everything I saw in my online spaces was telling me that I, a 20-something white male, was the cause of every other person's pain in the world. It made me depressed. I was logically told, you don't know what it's like to be in other people's shoes. But apparently everybody understands my life down to a T because I was seemingly straight, white, and male. I'm proudly a lefty, but my allies close to me have to understand that constantly telling 14-year-old boys that they're the problem is not good for their mental health. And of course, they will turn to clowns like Andrew Tate. Somewhat similar to Republicans or conservatives, I disagree almost entirely with what they sell and how they do it, but if you constantly tell these people, you're the devil for accepting that person, they're going to move further and further away. Suddenly Bush turns into Trump and Joe Rogan turns into Tate. I will always be supportive of minority groups and their oppression, but when every minority group bands together to say men are the problem, specifically white men, that isn't a David versus Goliath thing anymore. At least not in the way people perceive it. Story 32. Several. In the USA in particular, where ADHD runs more rampant among men than women, we face the following. Lack of work, or life, or health inclusion. Our job should not have men chained to desks doing nothing physical. We need to be hunting saber-toothed tigers or whatever. The rampant behavior of our culture has sold men the lie that they need to be fooling around with women constantly to be manly. That's a lie and also unhealthy. This behavior also contributes to our chronic mental overstimulation, which is why so many men have ADHD diagnoses. We're having to throw off the shackles of mental health myths. More men of the millennial generation are seeking counseling and therapy, which is great. We needed to deprogram ourselves from the mental tapes installed in us by our parents. Most of these tapes are full of outdated data, given how radically the culture has shifted. That culture has shifted so much that men are really no longer needed. At the very least, the separation between them and women is eroding quickly, even more so for boys and girls. While I'm pro-integration in most things, the lack of spaces specifically for either intimacy precludes some of the intense bonding and growth facilitated by being alone with others of your like mind. Story 33. Whenever problems are identified, you're not really allowed to discuss it. We can acknowledge the problems, sure, but any attempt to have a serious discussion about causes or solutions is routinely shut down by people arguing in bad faith and gaslighting you as a misogynist. Story 34. Radical feminism. Honestly, it is totally okay and acceptable to openly and passionately hate the entire male gender these days, and to invalidate every disadvantage we face or success that we've had. It's almost fashionable for most young people under 35 to broadly dislike the male gender. Nobody defends us besides people like Jordan Peterson. Lol. It becomes exhausting as a young man trying to find his way in the world. Story 35. The biggest problem men face is that nobody with the power to enact change is interested in engaging with the issues men face. Additionally, most people are ignorant and stigmatize any discussion of real issues. If we're lucky, we'll get useless advocacy, e.g., most men cry, blah, blah, blah. That's not the problem. Men don't end themselves because they can't cry or are less likely to cry. How about tackling the systemic issues instead for once, like we try to with women's issues? Basically, the biggest problem is we have problems, and unlike other groups, nobody who's able to is willing to help. Story 36. Women literally treat me rude as hell on a daily basis. I'm tall, but that doesn't mean I'm going to attack you. Women cross the street when I'm walking, they grab their mace, clutch their purse, roll up their windows. I'm not a creep. I'm just tall. This has really messed up my mental health, and I go to therapy for the way women treat me in public. I never used to be like this. Women generally fear and hate masculine men these days. I just wish women were nice to me. My depression will be the end of this BS. Maybe then people will listen and believe what I go through. Story 37. They literally have no one to talk to about their mental health, not even their spouses. I've seen men sitting in their cars in parking lots after coming back from office just to enjoy a few minutes of freedom, because they know there's chaos waiting at home as well. Not the wife, but the whole ecosystem there. They just can't go to their friend and rant how miserably they're feeling. No one's going to listen to a whiner. Men are supposed to be strong. They need to put up a brave face for every situation, even if they're feeling like crap inside. It is said, you cannot always be strong, but you can always be brave. But why? I just don't get it. Story 38. Earning a good living. Around 900 euros a week as a contractor for 10 hours work. 25-year-old me would be foaming at the mouth for that kind of money. I would have imagined a lavish lifestyle. The reality is that it's not enough to pay for normal things in Dublin. Stuff needs repairing. Teeth need fixing. Kids need schooling. Wife wants more security. Bills need paying. Eventually, earning what I thought would be a good living amount of money ends up just feeling like a never-ending battle to earn more to keep bills getting paid. I'm so tired. I'm also studying 3 days a week and taking care of my 10-month-old daughter 3 days a week while my wife works. Story 39. It's interesting reading through all the comments and seeing so many either blaming or bringing up women. We need to create a society that supports and validates the emotional needs of men, and it sounds like supportive groups or communities need to primarily be created and led by men. Sounds like men need friends. Other guys that can be open with without judgment, maybe while doing an activity at the same time. Society is too isolationist. Story 40. The biggest problem modern men face is that they exist in a world that mocks and loathes who they are. We had a generation where we did not treat boys, but as dysfunctional girls. These boys are growing to be men in a world that hates them, and they have been taught to hate themselves. Story 41. A lack of purpose, at least in my opinion. Men often open up best around other men. Your mates, your fellow strugglers in the mortal coil. But men need purpose beyond simply work, especially at a corporate level or office job. And with a lot of modern-day society diminishing men's mental health struggles and targeting swaths of the male support network, gym culture, sports clubs, pubs, in the name of stamping out toxic masculinity, they leave little left in their wake. The result being a generation who lack purposeful existence, who feel isolated from their fellow man, of all genders, and who are subconsciously told every day that anything more traditionally masculine is wrong and toxic. Story 42. Not to make this political, but it's hard not to. Reading the comments, does it really surprise anyone why a person like Trump comes along touting all the nonsense and hate that he does and still has a rabid following? I hate the guy, but what other politician has harnessed the feelings of men, particularly white men in any recent age? It's no wonder people still cling to him. No one really gives a crap about men, then a schmuck like him comes along and uses those emotions that we're expected to bottle up to make us feel good, even if it hurts others. Read the comments from men and their experiences, then think about the BS that's been happening in the world, particularly the last 6 years. Story 43. I just thought of another one. Men's rooms without changing tables for kids. That's one that really angered me when my little guy was a baby. This wasn't just at small businesses either. I remember being at USF with my kid and having to change him. This is a huge university, yet they couldn't be bothered to have a changing table in the men's room. Naturally, I just changed him on a table in the study area in the middle of the building. I didn't even care if he had a blowout. Let the school deal with that crap if it gets on the table. They're lucky I didn't walk to the cafeteria to change him. Story 44. The biggest problem is that women have objectively achieved parity with men in everything they fought for, but our discourse is still frozen in 2008. According to Forbes, the controlled gender pay gap has been 100% closed. Men are more likely to be victimized by violent crime, yet all we hear about is violence against women. Men are equally likely to be subject to DV, but we still pretend like men can't be victims. In schools, men are discriminated against as teaching continues to be female-dominated and thus matriarchal in its culture. Women now earn 63% of bachelor's degrees. Yet we still have female-only scholarships, schools, etc., with no equivalent for men. In fact, as we have seen women achieve parity, there has been an increased push for female representation without recognizing the other side of that coin. Story 45. I'm just now learning how to have, feel, and express emotions, and I'm in my 20s. Society has so many pressures to just keep pushing that it literally drove me crazy. And I've done things that I'm not proud of, but managed to not need to be hospitalized. Also, as a guy who is very social and loves being out, I've learned to adapt to crowds in a very odd way. I act a certain way around men and do every possible to not come off as a creep and around women and children. I love kids. Their innocence and wonder inspires me. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're gonna love this. Catch you in that video.